live on YouTube.
Yeah,
Just be a
Andrea.
minute.
How do you want to do when you guys ask staff questions? Do we need to wait for you to tell us, or if they ask us a question, should we be able to directly answer them?
If commissioners ask you a question?
Yeah.
You can direct, if they ask you a question, yeah, I mean, let's try to just be very clear, knowing that the situation, you know, asking direct questions of specific people.
Okay.
If you can, but yeah, I think it's okay for you to just answer.
Okay.
Just to keep it moving. All right, so should I get started? Is there anything else?
No, YouTube stream is live. You're all good on my end. I'm going to turn off my video now.
Oh, you're not gonna, okay.
I'll be here. I'm not going to keep my video on.
Okay. All right, calling to order the Marquette City Planning Commission for Tuesday, April 21st, 2020. We're going to start with roll call, and let's start with Andrea and Dave and Sean first, and then we'll go one by one.
Okay, Andrea Landers, zoning official.
Dave Stensa, City Planner, Zoning Administrator.
Sean Hobbins, Assistant City Manager.
Joy Cardillo. Eric.
Aaron Andrews.
Eric Brooks.
Sarah.
Michael Dunn.
Sarah Middlefelt.
Michael Larson.
Jessica Case.
Tony Ruiz.
Okay, we got everybody, right? Oh no, Wayne, did you say your name?
Oh, I'm here. Wayne Primo.
Okay. Okay. Moving on to the agenda. Are there any comments or changes to the agenda? Seeing as how nobody has any comments, would somebody like to make a motion to approve the agenda?
Motion to approve the agenda.
Second.
Okay, Sarah made the motion. Second was by Eric.
Yes.
All in favor of approving the agenda? Say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries. Has everybody had a chance to look at the minutes? Are there any comments on the minutes? Seeing as how nobody has any comments on the minutes, we can approve the minutes by consent. So the minutes are approved by consent. At this time, if anybody has a conflict of interest, please take this opportunity to speak up.
I believe it's the second item on the agenda. I'm having a hard time locating the agenda in my email, but on that agenda regarding the special use permit 351 West Washington, I have a conflict of interest, and pursuant to MCL 125.3815, have to announce that before voting and abstain from voting or participating in that matter.
Okay, thank you. And you stated you're going to turn off your video.
I'll turn off
audio.
I'll mute myself and I'll turn off the video. I'll keep audio on simply for the fact that I'll need to know when to jump back in after that matter is over, decided on.
Okay, that sounds good. Okay, moving on to our public hearings. Our first public hearing is 04 SUP 04-2020 West Ridge Street 40-foot telecommunications tower. And so now Andrea is going to take over.
All right. Give me a second here.
Yeah, could we hold on a second? I got an email just from one of the consultants that's saying he's in the YouTube and not able to see the meeting. Where am I?
He's in Zoom or he's in YouTube?
He said he's on the YouTube channel and not seeing the meeting, and that was at 6:03. So I'm not sure if it's working. Is there any way to verify?
I mean, I have it up and I can see it.
Okay.
I have the link posted on our Facebook page. I posted the link in the waiting room chat.
Yeah.
Do you want me to send it to you directly? You can forward it to him?
Sure, yeah.
Do you want me to wait while you resolve this?
No, I was gonna say, it's okay to go forward. It's not a consultant for that project,
Okay.
so.
All right, you take it away, Andrea, please.
Already. Okay, can you guys see the screen?
I can, but
Yes.
it's very fuzzy on the document.
Yeah, you can't read the text.
Oh, you
Yeah.
can.
Now you
Now
can.
Oh, it looks better.
There it came in.
Better.
Oh, okay. All right. So the first case, 04 SUP 0420, 1009 West Bluff Street. Staff has reviewed the request for a special land use permit for a wireless communications tower facility, which is a 40-foot high monopole tower and equipment platform located at 1009 West Bluff Street. Attached was the staff file review analysis, which included all the information for the public. And then we had all of the special land use requirements pertaining to wireless communications. And the special land use requirements that the planning commission must review and determine if this meets also, and the site plan review requirements. And the special land use permit application from the applicant, the site plan review application, and the additional materials from the applicant. This is the Verizon site within the Marquette area. And then on this one, it talks about what type towers they are and then distances to each other. Proposed lighting cut sheet, staff comments, if there were any. So far, those are none. This is their response to the zoning comments. And then the engineering comments at the end there. And then there were additional engineering comments. And they had to provide more information on the stormwater calculations. The area map, the entire parcel is outlined in blue. The block map, the parcel is outlined in blue. Photos of the site. And then their site plan packet. Showing the area of lease behind the existing building. And other items in the packet, survey. And then, make sure. First piece of correspondence that was submitted prior to the agenda posting that the Planning Commission has read. The second piece of correspondence, which had photos. And of course, since this was in the agenda packet, this is items that you've seen, but for the public, we're just showing them. Another piece of correspondence that was in the agenda packet. Which included additional correspondence within that. And then they were showing the Verizon additional information there. Mining journal information. And then we received additional correspondence on this. So Dave, did you want to read that in now?
Yes, so we have two letters that were received after the agenda was published. The first one is from Katie Mead. And it reads, Miss Landers, my name is Katie Dawson Mead, and I live at 809 West K Street, Marquette. I'm very strongly opposed to cell tower next door to my mother's home at 1007 West Bluff Street, or anywhere within the Marquette city limits for that matter. Cell towers, though necessary, should be limited to commercial industrial sites only and definitely not in residential areas. My undergraduate work is in the health field, and I believe there are serious health risks associated with cell towers. My husband, my son, and myself spend a great deal of time at my mom's house, and the kids play in the side yard, which is directly adjacent to where the proposed tower would be built. Actually, the front and side yards are the only places the kids can play due to the steep wooded area behind my mom's house, which, by the way, is currently home to various small animals and birds. My husband and I are very seriously considering purchasing my mother's home when and if the time comes. We definitely would no longer consider doing so if a cell tower were constructed directly next door. By this fact alone, you can see how the construction of a cell tower would adversely affect the marketability of my mother's home. In closing, I am asking for my opposition to be read at the hearing. Katie Mead. Also, we have from David Finkbeiner a letter dated April 17th. Dear Miss Landers, I'm Robert Finkbeiner, and I'm writing this on behalf of my wife, Marianne Finkbeiner, and myself, together with all the tenants in our apartment building. Marianne and I own an apartment building at 1005 West Bluff Street, which is nearby the proposed cell tower, the subject of this meeting. To begin with, we object to the dates that have been set for the meeting. We're both in a high-risk category for COVID-19. Both the federal government and state government have closed non-essential businesses and meetings until further notice. It's irresponsible to hold a zoning hearing under these circumstances. This particular meeting has no urgency and appears to be designed to prevent neighbors who may be affected from organizing or attending. You've already rescheduled this non-urgent meeting once, and under these circumstances, it can be rescheduled as many times as necessary to make sure everyone has the opportunity to be heard. Our neighborhood where the cell tower is proposed is primarily a residential neighborhood. Cell towers do not belong in residential neighborhoods. Would the board allow this tower to be built in Shiras Hills, the Summits, Granite Point, or other residential areas in Marquette? If you research 5G towers on the internet, there are thousands of reasons identical towers, including many of Verizon's towers, are being criticized. I'd be happy to make copies and submit them to the board at an in-person meeting at a later time. Many of the people who would be involved are students and others who have returned home as NMU is closed. Our major objection is that the board will grant a variance as they did with the Black Rocks Brewing Company and then enlarge the variance a year later with other requests from the same company. If they let us know upfront their future plans, there would have been more objections. In this case, we have no information on how large the tower platform will be. We have no information of how much higher or bigger any changes might be in the future. In addition, we don't know how many new antennas will be placed on the tower in the future. Once they get the tower up, how many more towers may come in the future. For these reasons, Marianne and I object to this meeting while the city and state are under quarantine. We also object to any cell tower being built in a residential area, and in particular, our residential area. Please cancel the scheduled meeting until everyone who's interested can attend the meeting in person. We'd request that this email be circulated to the board members and read out loud at the next meeting. Sincerely, Robert Finkbeiner. I did send that to all of the board members on Saturday with a response to Mr. Finkbeiner. That's all we have for correspondence.
Okay. So at this point, can we bring in the applicant?
Is it Mary Dawson?
Well, she's gonna
No.
be public. Do you want me to admit them? I actually know this one.
Yeah, go ahead.
A Valley is one of them.
Yeah, you can go ahead.
Okay.
Hi, A Valley? Or it looks like we have A Valley and
Aaron
Guy.
Valley and then Guy Stewart.
Which one of you would like to speak on behalf of your project? Can you hear me first of all? Guy, can you hear me?
Oh, I can hear you, yes.
Okay.
It
Would
looks like,
you or A Valley like to speak on behalf of this project?
Sure, yeah, I'd love to speak on this. Basically,
Sorry, just for the record, can you state your name and address and yeah, before you start?
Andrea's got something to say.
Is this all, Guy? Just you and Aaron? I don't see anyone else in the waiting room. I see phone numbers. Is there anyone else we need to pull in?
let's see, if there's a phone number, the only one I would say is that would be, let me look here really quick. Ending with 1377.
Okay, yep, they're not there.
Okay, so it'll just be Aaron and I then.
Okay,
And
sorry.
Aaron, you need to enable your microphone. It should be in the bottom left of the Zoom app.
Aaron, can you hear us? I don't think Aaron can hear us.
Let me see if I can text him quick here.
Yeah, these meetings definitely aren't perfect. They're just kind of a means to an end.
Right.
No, we all understand this is unusual times.
Well, Mr. Stewart, if you'd like to speak and if we can get Aaron online, he's free to
How
join.
about, hi, this is Aaron.
Oh, okay.
all right.
Hi, Mr. Valley.
Hi, sorry about that.
Okay, Guy Stewart, 3703 North Point Drive, Stevens Point, Wisconsin, 54481. Here tonight to ask for your approval of this communications tower that we have proposed. I think it meets Verizon's objectives for additional coverage in the area. You've got that, you folks are very well the area that we've got West Washington, you've got with a 22841 McClellan area. So that's a very high business area that you have out there. And we've got a landowner that is willing in a commercial zone district to host this communications tower. And I believe that we have established that this meets your zoning ordinance that you have in place. And I think I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Okay. Applicant. So, and then Dave, we've gone through all of the correspondence already, right?
Yeah.
All right. Okay. Does anybody have any specific questions? Anybody on the commission for Mr. Stewart at this time before we, Sarah, Commissioner Middlefelt?
Yeah, just a question of clarification. I read all the documentation on here, but my brain's kind of trying to wrap myself around an area that I'm not an expert in, cell tower communications. And one thing the land development code asks is, that it has to be demonstrated that the existing infrastructure is not sufficient. So Mr. Stewart, maybe you could provide just a quick explanation of, the technological justification for why this site, what is this providing to the community that, we read it, but if you could just explain that in kind of layman's terms a little bit, that would be helpful, I think.
Yeah, sure. So there's basically there's two kinds of things that a communications tower provides. One is coverage and another is capacity. So this tower accomplishes both for Verizon. So they've identified this area that we talked about earlier that they need to improve their coverage. So, they're essentially their ability to use the customers to use their cell phone. The other part of it is capacity. So cell towers only can provide so many calls on a tower at one time, so that the towers downtown, the towers to the west on the water tower are getting overloaded. So this location provides Verizon the ability to be able to offload the capacity of these communications towers and also improve the coverage in this business area that's developing very fast. I hope that helps.
Commissioner Ruiz.
And that was what I was alluding to. I read Mr. Finkbeiner's letter. Is this tower going to be capable of 5G technology, or is this just expanding the current 4G network?
I would tell you it's a little of both. It is going to be expanding the 4G network, but it's also preparing for the 5G system that's coming down the road in the city.
Well, and are other towers, I guess, what are you going to have to do to this tower to make it? I mean, we all know the 5G is the next step. It's on its way. It's already being rolled out in major metropolitan areas. What would have to be done to this tower to, make it capable for 5G technology?
Well, Verizon is essentially getting prepared to do that in that area. So really the difference between 4G and 5G is the internal radio equipment on the site. So it's really primarily the ground equipment that they'll be changing down the road. There may be some antenna work on the tower, but it's primarily it's primary radio equipment that those changes would occur.
But it won't be a 5G tower out the gate.
No.
I don't believe so, no.
Can I just get a clarification? Mr. Stewart, do you work for Verizon? What is your role?
No, I'm an independent contractor. We call ourselves site acquisition folks. My primary job is the real estate side. So what I do is I focus on the real estate and zoning side of these communications towers.
Commissioner Dunn, and I'll get to you, Eric.
So I'm fairly ignorant on this topic, and I've got a couple of questions. One is, Mr. Stewart hopefully could answer this. I'm kind of wondering where the actual antennas, and I might not even be using the right terminology, but the big triangular piece that holds the antennas.
Correct.
I typically see those with 3 or 4, and I saw the technical drawings in here that looked like there was going to be like 3 different modules on each side. I don't know if those are technically called antennas or if those are each antennas, but I guess what my question is thinking about another user in the future possibly using this tower. I know that in the documents it said that it was going to be able to expand and accommodate an additional antenna. My question is one antenna sufficient? Is that typical for the industry? Would a cell phone provider come and say, oh yeah, we just need one antenna?
No, typically that would not be the case. If you look at the drawings, and I know there's a lot there to look at, but essentially the initial proposal is to put a platform at the top of this communications tower. And that platform is in a triangular shape, and it has 3 directions it's pointing. And in each direction, they should have 3 antennas at each direction. So if, for example, AT&T, Sprint, or whoever comes on down the road, they would put their own platform up and they would put their antennas up. So there's never really an instance where a cellular carrier would just put one antenna up. We're typically talking about 9 antennas on this particular application.
So then I've got a follow-up, and that is where in the engineering statement, which I couldn't make a lot of sense out of because it's way over my head.
Sure.
It kind of indicated that it was going to be engineered to allow for an additional antenna.
Correct.
And so my thought is, well, is that really that helpful? Is that really accommodating another user if they need to put up a whole new platform? I guess I wasn't following whether that was going to be enough to accommodate a whole nother user. If the tower is engineered sturdy enough to accommodate a whole nother user to put up their platform with their antennas.
Okay, so yeah, essentially what they're doing is, so Dolan Realty Advisors is putting in constructing this tower. They are a tower company that essentially rents space on communications towers. If you look at the footprint of this communications tower, you would see that there's an extra space open that Verizon would not be using. So that is being readied for a potential second carrier. And when they say antenna, they mean a second set of antennas. So this tower is designed to have 2 carriers on this communications tower. One is being Verizon. The next, we don't know who potentially would do it.
Got it. Okay, good. And then could I follow up with another question?
Sure.
When folks are going out and looking for a potential site and they're looking at existing towers, I saw the list of existing Verizon towers, but in addition to that, there's a couple other towers that are out there, and I'm wondering, I didn't see anywhere in the documents where it explained why those wouldn't work. It listed them, but it didn't say why they wouldn't work to accomplish what Verizon needs.
Okay, so the list that was provided to you, I believe, is what I believe what you're referring to is the existing and or maybe future tower communication facilities that Verizon is on. So in this instance, this is a new communication tower site facility. If you look at that list, you'll see that we're on rooftop. I think we're also on a water tower. And I think we've got a downtown site. And then one closer to maybe Nagani, I think. And so those are our Verizon sites. So part of my job when I get asked to look for a site is that I need to find something that would work for Verizon, have a host landowner that's willing to work with us and meet your zoning requirements. So I think this site does that. Any other site that is available, I could think of, the only one that I can think of that's even remotely close is that Pine Tree site on that I think AT&T has up on the north side of the golf course.
Well, we also have a pretty substantial tower right downtown next to the parking lot on Bluff.
We have a downtown site.
Yeah, is that maxed out, or could that handle another platform and accomplish the same thing?
Okay, I guess it's a two-sided question. I'm not familiar with that communication tower, so I don't know if it could handle another site, but it would not help Verizon at all to go on a tower that they already have.
Okay, so that's not going to help their coverage.
No, because they need the coverage over in the area that we're at on the West Bluff site.
Okay, so that leads me to my last question, which is there any other locations that would provide the coverage and the I want to say bandwidth, but I think you used a different term, the capacity.
Sure.
Is there any other sites that would provide what Verizon needs other than this one, and preferably something not near residential?
The simple answer would be no. I did make Verizon aware of the Pine Tree monopole that you have up by the golf course. That was too far to the south. That would help. That it would not help them. I have made contact with many landowners in the area, and again, the three things that we need to be able to put a site together is a landowner willing to help to host the site. We need to have the location that Verizon needs, and we need to match those things up with your zoning ordinance. And this is the site that works, I believe, all three of those.
Okay, that's all I have for now. Thank you.
Commissioner Brooks?
My question is, it's a 40-foot tower, correct?
Correct.
Now, is that from the street level, 40 feet up from the street level?
That's, I would call it ground level. I'd have to look at the plans. I mean, it's probably pretty close to street level.
Okay. In the current Anderson Communications building that's there, what would you say the height of that is? About 18, 20 foot?
Yeah, I would, that's probably a good guess. Yeah, it's in that range.
Yeah. Okay, so we're talking about 20 feet above the building, this structure would rise above.
Yeah, that'd be a good guess. It's not absolutely accurate, but yeah, that would be approximately, yes.
Okay, that's all I have. Thank you.
You bet.
Commissioner Larson.
One of my questions is, like, what is the capacity that you're currently at right now? Because one of the pieces of our ordinance is to encourage locations in non-residential areas and then minimize the total number of towers throughout the community. So I mean, if that's what we're we're trying to minimize that, I mean, how far, where in the capacity realm are we right now? Is the current communications kind of operating at 50%, 75%? Maybe I'm miscategorizing how you would think about that. And I know you started to hint at that a little bit, but if you could talk about that a little bit, that'd be helpful in me thinking about, why this should be put here when one of the goals is to minimize the number of towers in the community.
Well, I guess the first thing I'd like to just state and remind us is that this is actually in a commercial zone property. This is not on a residential piece of property. And I think you're asking, I don't know what the capacity in terms of percentages and things, that's more of a radio frequency engineer question. I'm on the real estate zoning side of things. I just, that's kind of way above my pay grade. So I can't definitively tell you an answer, but Verizon, my experience, I've been doing this for over 25 years, and any of these carriers don't want to put a tower up if they don't have to. I don't know if that's going to help you with that question or not, but the RF engineer has said that they need this location for increasing the capacity and better signal strength in this area. And that's to the extent that I think I can answer that question.
Commissioner Larson, why don't you continue, and then I'll get to you, Commissioner Middlefeld.
So I guess to a follow-up, while it is a commercial zoned plot, it is in that boundary right against residential areas, that's there. And so I think that's, partially why this is a little bit different of a situation anyway. And so I guess, my final question, I may have another, is like, how do, when you're looking at towers kind of adjacent to residential areas, how do you look at, potential adverse impacts that towers might have on, a community, and kind of what is from your point of view in constructing, a tower in a residential area? What are your thoughts on adverse impacts that, might be had and that we have heard some concerns on?
Well, I guess I essentially go back to your zoning ordinance, and every community has different zoning ordinances that impact, or they've looked at and said, okay, this is how we want to minimize an impact of any, whether it's a communications tower, whether it's a building, McDonald's, whatever it is. So I always go back to your zoning ordinance to see what each community has in place to protect your zoning.
Commissioner Middlefeld.
Michael kind of touched on my question, which might be a question for Andrea. I pulled up the zoning map and, cross-referencing it with the documents we all received in the agenda. So is my understanding that the proposed tower is in commercial, but the adjacent property that the Dawson residents that we've received correspondence from is multifamily residential. Is that correct? Is this right at the boundary between these two zoning districts?
Yes, and it's on, let me see if I can get to that site plan. If you guys, and I can share the screen here. Sorry, it's it's a little, also, while I'm looking for this, Guy, would you mention about, because back in 2017, the Planning Commission had reviewed a Verizon cell tower. And a part of your conversation that they know in the Park Cemetery, that's no longer a Verizon cell tower?
Yes, that is correct. So what happens is when Verizon identifies a site that they need, what they do, Verizon doesn't own any communications towers typically. There might be some out there that they actually own from way back when, but what they do is then once they identify a site that they need, they turn to a tower company to erect the tower, and they essentially guarantee them to be a tenant on this tower. So for that 2017, I think you said site, that I think, I don't recall who the tower company is, but I believe T-Mobile ended up going on that site and not Verizon. So Verizon in the end decided that they did not need that site.
It was presented to the city by Ton 80 Realty Services, and it was pitched as a Verizon site and approved as a Verizon site.
Yes, that is correct. That was the direction that Verizon was taking, but in the end, they decided not to go on that tower.
Okay, I'm sharing my screen. Okay, so can you see the hand on there?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's where the district boundary is. That's the parcel line. So here, this is the multifamily zone, and then here's the commercial zone. And then above multifamily up in this area here, and then commercial zone here, commercial back in here too. Did that answer your question, Sarah?
Yeah, it did. It did. Thanks.
Commissioner Coase, did I say that right?
Yes, thank you. Is Mr. Stewart?
Yes.
How long have you been working? You said 15 years in this area?
I've been working since 1995 in this industry. So I would say that's what, close to 20, 25, 26 years.
Okay, and so just on a more personal level, considering the health of our community, especially our children, I know you're saying this depends on our zoning, but just bringing it to your personal level, if someone wanted to put a tower next to your house and maybe you had kids, how would you feel about it?
I think it's my personal feeling is, and actually the federal government is, it's been well established. I think back in the late 1990s, I think 1996, that there's really no health issue with a communications tower. I actually have a tower located a block away from my house, and I have no concerns whatsoever personally. And in addition, I think back in 1996, Federal Communications said that local communities cannot deny a communications tower based on health issues.
And what about real estate value of the property? Like if someone were to put this next to your property, given noise and the way it looks, aesthetics, what would you feel about that?
I would honestly feel the same way. I was a real estate appraiser many years ago, and I've gone, like I said, I've been in this industry for 25 years, and we've had several times when people have brought the evaluation issue up, and there's not been any substantial evidence that says that that's a drop in property values whatsoever.
Thank you.
Ms. Chair,
Yes?
I just want to add that on the site downtown, the owner did an expansion of the equipment there. They did an expansion of the ground equipment storage,
Which site downtown? The one,
the one on Front Street,
okay.
behind the radio station. The one you can see from everywhere, you know, that's on the hill on Front Street. It's a 150-foot tower.
That's on top of a building, right? Is that?
It starts at ground level behind the building on Front Street where the WKQS radio station is.
Mhm.
So last fall, I think they did an expansion there that didn't have to go through plan review because it met all of the standards for federal exemption of an existing site. So just to answer kind of a question about that particular site, I don't know, you know, if they have more capacity there, but what they did there, we spent about a month going through the federal statutes and the state statutes before we finally conceded that we didn't have any authority to prevent them from going forward with the project, and they didn't have to submit any permits for it because there's federal guidelines that sometimes pre-exempt or totally preempt local control, and they met those guidelines. So
Is this what somebody was speaking about, being able to add 20 feet without getting further permit?
Yeah.
Is that a real thing?
I don't know those details, but I just wanted to say that site downtown was recently expanded.
Madam Chair.
Sorry, yes, Commissioner Andres.
Yes, I just have a question for the guy. Would this tower would ultimately improve whatever tower it becomes, whether it's Verizon or whether it's AT&T or whether it's T-Mobile? It really doesn't matter who it is. It would improve the company's capability to provide service, correct?
Yes, that is correct. In this instance, it's going to allow Verizon to improve their coverage in that. I'm going to call it, it's not downtown, but I'm not sure if you have a specific designation for that area. That's the Econo Foods, the old Shopco. You know, there's some new, is it a medical center down there? I mean, it's going to improve that coverage in that area. And I guess the other couple of things is that this particular site historically actually has had a tower on it for many years. It was just recently taken down. I think I'm going to tell you 2 years. I don't know if that's totally accurate, but that was originally Anderson Communications building, and they did have I think a 70, 80 foot tower on that property.
Dave, Andrea, could you speak to that? Do you know about that tower?
I don't myself.
No.
Go ahead.
The tower still exists on the Google Street View
Okay.
photos.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I think it was taken down about 2 years ago when they moved their headquarter locations, and they took the tower with them and then they sold the building, I think maybe twice, ending up at PTA
Okay.
properties.
Commissioner Larson, and then we'll go to Brooks and then Ruiz.
I think we talked, so thinking about the tower downtown, we talked about the towers that, Verizon may currently have, but other towers that are in the area, is that included in that list as well? Because, one of the other tenets of, the zoning ordinance is to encourage, joint use, of towers, of new and existing towers as primary options, rather than construction of additional single use towers. And so that might not necessarily be Verizon owned or owned by that company there, but is that list kind of all inclusive. Does that make sense?
Is that to me?
Yes, I guess that's to you, Guy. Do we have an exhaustive list of towers and availability of locations that are included here? Of why joint location doesn't work?
The only tower that's remotely close to this location is that AT&T tower that is located on the north side of the golf course.
Okay.
And again, part of my job is when I get a project like this is to establish the easiest thing and the quickest for Verizon to accomplish is to go on somebody else's tower. That's the first thing that they would prefer to do. It's fastest. There's all sorts of reasons why that makes sense. And they are aware of that tower, the AT&T tower on the north side of the golf course. In this instance, it did not work for them. So that's why they're coming to you to ask for a new tower to accomplish what they need in this particular area. Their preference would not be to build a tower. They wouldn't build a tower if they didn't need it.
And I apologize. I know you kind of already answered that question, but maybe I misunderstood initially on how that was kind of phrased initially. So I appreciate the response.
Commissioner Brooks?
Actually, my question was answered. Thank you.
Okay. Commissioner Ruiz?
I didn't have a question. I was concerned as to whether or not we were in the discussion phase or asking questions. And
you're just asking questions of Mr. Stewart. Sean?
Just real quick, if everybody can mute their microphones when they're not talking, it seems we're having some issues on channel 191 where somebody's microphone is picking up the whole meeting and echoing it through. If everybody's able to mute their microphones when they're not talking, that might fix it. That's all.
Okay, thank you. All right, so we have Commissioner Dunn.
For whatever reason, I always have to come back later. I'm not sure why I can never get all my questions out the first time around, but why the request for a landscaping waiver?
So if you, I'm not sure how familiar you are with this property, but the proposed site is in the back of the existing building and the slope is extremely sharp. And we're going to be to put the site in, we have to have a little bit of a retaining wall. So if you look at landscaping as in general, the concept is to try to hide the ground equipment. In this instance, if we would put landscaping on that slope, we're already probably 3 or 4 feet below, we would be 3 or 4 feet below the grade, and it would never ever get high enough to block the ground equipment. So that's why we were proposing to have using a fence to kind of block the ground equipment. And essentially, I believe solving the aesthetic question that the zoning requirement is asking for.
Yeah, I guess obviously I can understand that if it's too steep, it's too steep. But it seems to me that there's a good section at the front of the property that it's nice and flat, and along the sides of the property there, especially where you've got residential neighbors, there's plenty of room to plant some trees and do a visual screen there along. It would be the east side of the property.
If I could ask you to look at P1 on the construction drawings. Those are pictures. Let me see if this will help. So if you're looking at P1, the photo to the left, what you're doing is you're looking at the entrance to the site. So as far as, I'll wait till she brings this up.
Sorry, it's taking me a while to get to it.
That's all right.
It's page 84, Andrea, if that helps.
Oh.
Oh, maybe not for you.
It's about 4 or 5 from the end. There you go. Yep. So if you're looking at that picture to the left, we're looking at the entrance to the potential site. So we already have, there's already trees on it would be the west end of the site. You see the slope. And then this direction, which would be the only direction, the one property to the east has a visual look at, would be the gate, the opening. So there would be no, even if you said we needed landscaping, there would be no landscaping there because that's the entrance. And by putting this this oblique fence up is at least blocking it. And we had an original discussion with Andrea and the zoning folks about putting a solid wood fence up, but I believe your zoning ordinance does not allow that in a commercial zoning.
Correct.
So that was our option that we went with.
Sure. And how tall is the fence again?
The fence would be 6 feet, I believe. Should be 6 feet.
Yeah. What's the average pine tree?
I can't answer that.
But my point is, I think if there was pine trees planted there, in a few years, you'd provide a lot better screen to those neighbors to the east.
But we wouldn't be able to plant any landscaping on the east side because that would be the entrance. You wouldn't be able to enter the piece of property. The piece of property, the site's only 15 feet wide.
Okay. So you don't think there's room there between the fence and the building for anything?
No, not. I mean, the gate I think is probably, I don't know what the gate is, but I mean, at best you might have. I mean, on the east side, you're not talking about an elevation issue like you are on the south side. So on the east side, if you want a couple, what do they call, cypress, juniper thing, on either side of the gate, that might be a possibility, but I don't know that would help the visual effect to the property to the east at all.
Okay.
In my opinion.
Thanks.
Joy, I think you're muted.
Sorry. So Commissioner Ruiz, do you?
I was just going to make a suggestion. At this time, I'd motion for. If we're done with questioning, I'd motion to suspend the rules and start discussion.
I just have a couple of questions, and then I will move on.
Okay.
Okay. My first question is regarding lighting. I see that on the plans you've indicated a couple of lights. My question is about the operation of them. Are those intended to be on sort of every evening, or is it only for when the site needs to be accessed for maintenance or?
So that's really just what I would call a service light, so that the only time that light would be on is that when there was an equipment issue in the evening and a tech has to go and deal with it. And again, by your ordinance, we did change that service light to some shielded lighting. So that would shield the neighborhood, or especially essentially the only property that would be affected at all would be the property to the east that would have any kind of view of this communications site. So it's only operated when it's needed for service, and it's also shielded.
And then can you speak just a little bit to the what you anticipate in terms of being the noise, vibration, dust, and fumes that would come from either the tower or the equipment that would be co-located with it to make it operational? Like, what is it sort of the standard noise of a HVAC unit? Is it beyond that?
So this is outside equipment.
Mhm.
So there is no AC equipment, AC associated with this. I believe this would have a generator, and the only time a generator would be functioning, let me look really quick. I believe it's just a generator. The only time a generator would be functioning is if the community had a power outage, and then that would be a backup. I think, just don't quote me on this, but I think most of these cell sites have like a 4, 6, 8 hour backup battery, and then it would have to kick on a generator. So, and again, it was only be in those instances when you have a power outage in the neighborhood.
Okay.
And then there would be no fumes otherwise.
Okay. And then just because I think it's going to get brought up, can you speak to this? Somebody who wrote on in the correspondence mentioned something about being able to add 20 feet without having to go through any further applications. Is that something you're aware of, or I realize I'm only speaking of it because somebody wrote about it, and I feel like it's going to get brought up. So I just want to give you an opportunity now to speak to that.
Yeah, there's a NEPA has a rule that there's certain NEPA requirements that if you do add more than 20 feet, you have to go through a different process, and that's at the federal level. I think, you know, and I can't speak to this, but each individual government agency, you're the city, I don't know how much that has oversight from a communications tower point of view. I think one gentleman mentioned that you didn't have, but I wasn't totally understanding what happened at that site, that you felt you didn't have any oversight ability. But it's a NEPA question, and it's a tower owner question that they have to go through a different process if there's more than 20 feet added to a tower site.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Stewart. Is there any other commissioners that have a question for Mr. Stewart or Wayne? I just want to make sure that if you had a question, you were able to. You're okay, Wayne?
Yes.
Okay. So if there's no further questions, can we move on to public testimony, Andrea or Sean?
Andrea, you're on mute.
It's easy to forget.
So how are we bringing in the public then?
That's a good question. I have 14 people in the waiting room. I'm assuming they don't all want to make public comment, but I don't know how we would know otherwise. We can go through one by one and check. That would be the only way I can think of.
I know that Mary Dawson is definitely for this case because she's the one that already had some correspondence.
Okay, well, let's go with her first, and then we can go through the list.
Okay, so we just admit her then?
Yeah, I just did.
Okay.
Hello, Ms. Dawson. I'm Joy Cordillo. I'm the chair. Are you there? Okay. If you could state your name and address, and then just keep in mind, we try to keep a limit of around 3 minutes for public testimony. Can you hear me, Ms. Dawson?
Yes, I can.
Did you hear what I just said about?
I just put it on right now.
Okay. So if you could state your name and address for the record, and then just keep in mind that we try to keep public comment to about 3 minutes.
Yeah, I've timed it like 100 times and I have it to 3 minutes, but I'm like speed talking. So if I just bring it down a little bit, would that be okay? Because I'm like literally, blah, 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 blah. So I really did do it about 40 times to see if I could get it to 3 minutes. So it is, but I'll try to, I'm talking pretty fast, but it's 3 minutes.
That should be okay.
Thank you. I think also my son's on the phone too.
We'll
So
bring in each person one at a time. So we're going to try to make sure everybody can get heard.
thank you. My name and my address.
Yes. I'm
Can
getting
somebody
background noise.
mute the YouTube?
Ms. Dawson, can you mute
Yeah.
your YouTube? Can you mute your YouTube? Because I think we're getting the background noise.
Oh, I don't have it on YouTube. I just have it on Zoom.
Oh, okay.
Could it be Wayne?
Shoot. It says live on YouTube, but let me see, mute. If I mute, you won't be able to hear me.
Oh yeah, no, we can't hear you now.
Okay, everything that I hear over 191 is double. It's like coming across twice. Is that what's happening?
Oh, you can't have 191 on while you're doing this.
I'm gonna turn it off then. Okay, they said to have it on, but I'll turn it off. Okay, sorry about that.
You have to have it on to view the meeting, but you can't have it on while you're making your comment.
I got it. Now is that better now?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Did you want me to start now or?
Start now, yes, thank you.
Oh, okay, thank you. Mary Dawson, 1007 West Bluff Street, Marquette, Michigan. I'm strongly opposed to a cell tower next door to my home, primarily for these reasons: health concerns, devaluation of my property, inability to recruit and or retain tenants, and the aesthetic and environmental impacts. I've reviewed the special land use checklist suggested for considering the appropriateness of a permit, and I will refer to it to make my following points. 1, and I quote, relationship to the general safety, health, and welfare of the community at large. After extensive research that I've worked on cell towers, which I submitted to the commission, I am convinced they do present potential serious health risks. The global magnitude of studies has increased over the years, finding the potential risks high. Even if there was only a slight possibility of exposing myself and my family to unknown and potentially serious health risks, why would I continue to live here? And the answer is I wouldn't. 2, any potential decrease in the market value of adjacent buildings if the proposed special land use is approved. Note the word potential decrease. It does not say definitive decrease in market value. But again, after a great deal of research, I'm convinced that not only would my market value decrease, but it would reduce my chances of finding a buyer willing to take on potential health risks and the aesthetic displeasure. Additionally, I believe it would hinder me from renting and or possibly retaining tenants. I contacted Marquette area realtors and a local appraiser who agreed that the cell tower would definitely decrease my property value. A local mortgage lender stated that if the cell tower were to be constructed next door to my home, this could make my property an adverse site. This would then be noted on any appraisal of the property, and it could affect a buyer's ability to secure a federally backed loan. A survey I researched found 79% of respondents said that under no circumstances would they ever purchase or rent a property within a few blocks of a cell tower. 3, impact from the applicant's proposed use, its location and intensity, and the height of its buildings. A 40-foot structure is out of the ordinary in keeping with the existing structures, and once built, an additional 20 feet can easily be added without community consent. And I put that in my paper, where I researched that. The provider could also place up to 4 equipment cabinets at the site and 1 equipment shelter. Lastly, and I quote, will be in harmony with the city or village land use plan for which it is intended and is not environmentally objectionable to nearby properties. I don't believe this proposal is in harmony with the city's comprehensive plan for the area. Do residents really want cell towers within the city limits? Would East Marquette residents agree to cell towers in their neighborhoods? As noted in my paper, my additional concerns are that of noise pollution, the impact to the area wildlife, and a negative aesthetic impact to the neighborhood and the downtown Marquette area, considering I'm only 1 block north of Washington Street. What is the purpose of zoning to begin with if special land use permits allow for building and construction that is non-harmonious with existing and surrounding sites? In closing, I ask that you put yourself and your family in my place and ask yourself the following 2 questions. Would you purchase or rent a home next to a cell phone tower? Would you be in favor of the construction of a cell phone tower next to your home or in your neighborhood? Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Dawson.
Mary, you said your son was going to make public comment and he was waiting on the phone.
Yes, sir.
What's his phone number?
Oh, I don't have that because he's not, is there no one on the phone?
No, there's like 6 people on the phone.
Shoot. I'll go look. I'm sorry. Is he
That's okay. We can go through them one by one. I was just seeing if you had it off the top of your head.
the fixed facility that I don't have that exact number right now.
Okay. I'm going to remove you from the meeting now, just so you know you have to turn it back on TV.
Thank you, sir.
You said your son was going to make public comment and he was waiting on the phone? What's his phone number? Okay. Let's see.
I think let's hit the phone numbers next, hey?
Okay. We'll do this one by one. Hello, can you hear us? Hello, 337-0768. Are you there?
Yes, I am.
Did you want to make public comment on the first case on the agenda?
Yes, I do.
Okay, Joy, go ahead.
Hi, if you can, please state your name and address for the record, and please just keep in mind we'd like to keep public comment to roughly 3 minutes.
Okay. My name is Matthew Dawson. My address is 1007 West Bluff Street in Marquette, 49855. I have some excerpts and some comments from the proposed use and general description taken off the typical process for site location. Verizon stated that the site of the new tower on the PTA properties meets the needs of Verizon Wireless and has the least amount of impact to the surrounding area. Who makes that determination are our comments. No one asked my mom or I, as occupants of the house next door, if we thought that the tower would create minimal impact. We certainly qualify for living in the surrounding area. We're certain if this land use permit is granted, it would create a major impact on our lives in the entire neighborhood. Neither the owner nor the employees of Red Electric live on the property in question. Additionally, Verizon will be allowed to add an additional 20 feet onto the tower without community consent. So now a 40-foot tower will become a 60-foot tower. Verizon added that when the tower is considered, the design of the tower is done to provide additional co-location possibilities. There are no co-location options available for this site. Our comments are, where's that proof for that? And in whose determination? If built, will Verizon then use this tower to co-locate in the future? Verizon stated that a stamped letter has been submitted with the application from a licensed engineer stating that the tower is designed for 2 carriers. Where does that stop? Are our comments. Who monitors how many additional services would be added? 2 carriers providing how many services? And again, who monitors the compliance? We feel that Verizon wants a foot in the door, and who knows what lies ahead. Verizon stated that the closest tower to this location is the Pine Street monopole south of this location in the golf course. It's too far to the south to feasibly meet Verizon's needs for business area that this tower would provide. The tower stated above, it's not listed on the Verizon site map in the Marquette area. Even without this tower included, there are 4 other towers within a 1 to 1.37 mile from the proposed location. Why does Verizon need another tower? Interesting also is that Verizon did not even include the golf club tower on their map. Why is that? It is the closest in proximity to the proposed tower. The last one is that Verizon also said that once another potential site is identified in the future, a site acquisition agent will always first look for an existing site that could serve the needs, whether it's an existing tower of a building that could support antennas and equipment. Our comments are, if Verizon is able to identify another potential future site, I'm certain that Verizon can find an alternate location at this time, an industrial or commercial zone that is not adjacent to a residential area, and certainly not in the city of Marquette. If this tower proposal was adjacent to a residentially zoned neighborhood, would it even be considered? If the proposal was east of Front Street, would it be considered? And if the land use permit is granted, that opens up the possibility of future construction directly adjacent to homes in all multi-family zoned areas. as well as all residential zone neighborhoods, because there's no difference between the two. We're residents living in multifamily units, and our interests and concerns should carry the same weight as residents living in residentially zoned neighborhoods. And that's all I have.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Have a good day.
Okay, next phone number. Uh, 362-300. Can you hear us? Hello, can you hear us?
I can. I have no comment on this hearing.
Okay. Do you know which item you are waiting for?
Yeah, 521, one of the owners.
Andrea, can you make a
The
note of
third
that?
one.
Okay. All right, we'll put you back in the waiting room until that time. Thank you.
Thanks.
Hello, 458-2207. Can you hear us? Hello, can you hear us? Do you know which item you are waiting for?
Yeah, 521, one of the owners.
Andrea, can you make a note of that? 458, are you there?
Yes, I'm also with the 521 Barriga.
Okay.
Thank.
373-9070, are you there? Hello, can you hear us? Hello? All right, I'm going to put them back in the waiting room. 373-9070, are you there?
Yeah, it's Dax. I'm with the 351.
Hello, can you hear us? Okay.
Yep. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you now.
Okay.
All right. I think that's all the phone numbers. Andrea, do you recognize any of the other names that are waiting?
I do, but there's some that I don't. Should we just admit the ones that I don't?
Yeah, you want to go through those?
Okay. I just admitted one.
I think he's with Fire Station, right?
Yeah. All right. Okay. And then
Hi, Tim.
Yes, I'm here.
Are you here to make public comment on this item?
I'm not sure which item because the channel 191 is like an echo chamber. I'm not sure where you are.
Is it still like that?
On the TV, it is. On this Zoom link right now, it's fine.
Okay. Yeah, we thought we'd fixed channel 191. YouTube is working fine, so I'm not sure what's going on there.
So I'm here for public comment on the 351 West Washington and 200 South Fifth.
Okay. That's not this item, right, Andrea?
correct.
Okay. We're going to put you back in the waiting room until that time. I recommend watching it on YouTube if you're able to.
I tried that link. It didn't work. I'll try again.
Okay.
All right.
Hey, Rich, can you hear us? Hey, Rich, you have to enable your microphone and camera. All right, let's just,
Mr.
I don't
Tagg?
think-
Miss-
go ahead.
Not there.
I don't think so. Was there anybody else, Andrea?
No, that was it.
All right.
Wait,
That's all.
a new number showed up. 458-6709.
All right, let's give it a shot. Hi, 458-6709. Are you here for public comment on this item? Hello, can you hear us?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes. Are you here for public comment on this item?
No, I'm not. I'm here for the property on US 41. I just wanted to call in and say that I'm here to address any comments on the civil engineer with.
Okay, if you can hang on the line for that item, we'll let you back in the meeting at that time.
Yep, just wanted to let you know.
All right, thank you. All right, I think you're good. Joy, to move on. What do you need to do?
Okay, so we're closing the public testimony portion. And so now we are free to move on to commission discussion if somebody wants to make a motion in that regard. Commissioner Ruiz?
I'd motion for to suspend the rules and have discussion amongst the planning commission members.
Can we get a second?
Second.
Commissioner Dunn gives a second. All in favor of suspending the rules for discussion? Please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries. None opposed. Commissioner Middlefelt.
I just had a question about the parameters of our discussion, going back to a comment that Dave made earlier about federal preemption. In our land development code per section 54.1404, regarding site plan review, it does state that under section E, that the planning commission determines public health, safety, and welfare. It says the uses proposed will not harm the public health, safety, and welfare. All elements of the site shall be designed to take into account the site's topography, the character of adjoining property, the type and size of buildings. The site shall be developed so not to as impede the normal and ordinary development or improvement of surrounding property or uses permitted in this ordinance. So that suggests to me that we can at least have a conversation about issues of public health and safety and whether or not, you know, this project's going to affect the neighboring property. But what I heard Dave saying is that there was already an issue of federal preemption for communication towers. Dave, if you could clarify, like, do we get to have the conversation about public health, safety, and welfare, or is this something that there's federal precedent for and that would be beyond our jurisdiction as a planning commission?
Dave, you're on. Dave, mute.
There's no doubt that there's quite a bit of preemption in regard to federal law concerning telecommunications towers in certain areas. Like I said, our attorney and I spent weeks looking into the different laws concerning the expansion of the site downtown, which they had a law firm represent them and present us with a bunch of information. We went through it, and so it's not federally exempt in all cases. Obviously, we have an ordinance that allows us control in certain circumstances, but not all circumstances regarding telecommunications. And the states become much more rigid about what's allowed in that regard too, as far as in state right-of-ways, in even city right-of-ways. There's very little local control over telecommunications. But in this regard, we do have the right to review the applications and make sure everything is in right to ordinance standards. And generally with a conditional use, special use permit, as long as that permit meets the standards that were adopted by the local jurisdiction, the state enabling acts say, there has to be a good reason to deny it. And the city's adopted this ordinance that allows in general commercial for the expansion for telecommunications equipment by special use permit. So we've adopted a framework that allows for this to go forward. Having something to deny the application request on would need to be something that's basically defensible by some proven circumstances that is going to create a nuisance or something definitive to the surrounding area that outweighs the benefits, I guess.
Commissioner Ruiz?
Dave, just so I'm clear, has the city attorney been able to opine as to whether or not, the health and safety of this tower itself is something that the planning commission, can factor into regarding the approval of the permit or not?
No, the city attorney has not looked at this in particular, and I think as as Mr. Stewart said, it's generally accepted that there's been federal oversight of this industry for decades, and they've made determinations that these towers are safe to the public. That's kind of the law that we're relying on to protect us, is the federal telecommunications and other federal acts that approve these towers and preempt our ability to totally have control over their development.
Commissioner Larson?
So I do think that, section 54.644 does give us, it does allow us to consider, subsection A, subsection 8 does allow us to consider public health and safety of communications, as part of our decision. So it is written into the LDC that it's there. So I think we would be following, our ordinance to include that in discussion. Whether or not that's the sole issue there, I mean, that's only consider, as far as that goes. So I do think that our ordinance does allow for us to discuss it.
Commissioner Coase?
And excuse me for my ignorance, but what about the fact that there are these other towers that we're not positive, like we don't know why AT&T doesn't want to share the golf course tower? Can we have more information on that to make sure that there isn't additional capacity that isn't being used? Because that is within what I'm understanding our role is.
Commissioner Larson?
I would agree with Commissioner Kays saying that we essentially have taking them at their word, but we don't have any additional materials citing why they can't locate it or co-locate on another tower or antenna there, beyond saying that currently it's not able to do so. But there's no additional supporting materials for that, or at least not that I saw.
Commissioner Ruiz?
And Mike, this is kind of going to your comment, and I think Sarah's comment as well, in terms of discussing the health and welfare of the community, based on these towers. I mean, we might be able to talk about it as much as we want, but if federal law preempts us from making a decision regarding it, we can voice our opinion and move on. I guess where I'm leaning at this point is, more information. I'd like to know from the city attorney is whether or not the health and welfare is actually something based on this tower we can contemplate in our decision. And I also want to know, the answer to your question, which is, is there a feasible alternative for Verizon that also meets the capacity and the needs for the citizens of Marquette? So that's where I'm leaning at this point.
Commissioner Coase?
Yeah, and just one other point is, why did they give up the one in the cemetery? Like, if they had something, I would like information about what happened that was turned over when they actually had space within this, from what I'm understanding, similar area, or I could be wrong.
Yeah, so I mean, I hear what everybody's saying, and I do think we are basically hearing from Mr. Stewart on behalf of this company is right now our best authority on this information. We don't really have any sort of third party authority on that to give us guidance. However, I guess the one thing I want to reiterate is this, we do have this as a special land use in this area, and we do have several towers within the city limits. So I think, I guess I have difficulty with the argument that, we shouldn't have towers within the city limits when, we already have them. And I think that we do, just want to point out, we do have a lot of say in terms of adding additional requirements if we see fit, is another thing. So, sorry, Commissioner Dunn.
So, I don't want to pretend that I know anything about whether there's health effects from this or not. I do know that I saw a report from the World Health Organization that indicated that there was potentially some problems. So I guess what I'm trying to say is the health and safety, I think, is debatable. And yes, I agree. I think we need more information there. Beyond that, however, I think there's a lot of adverse effects to neighboring properties that are listed right there in 54.644. The entire purpose of the ordinance for wireless telecommunication facilities, it specifically says to protect residential areas from potential adverse impacts. That's not just health. That could be views for somebody. That could be real estate values. That could be the enjoyment of their property. There's plenty of other reasons other than the health and safety. The second point there number 4 there, strongly encourage the joint use of new and existing tower sites as a primary option. So that strongly encouraged there. I haven't seen anything from this applicant that indicates definitively why they can't co-locate on one of the existing towers. And again, this is one of the primary purposes of the ordinance in the first place. So I think it's clear that I'm having a hard time with this as it is. I would certainly be open to looking at more information, or certainly be open to be proven wrong, because I don't know anything about cell towers, but I do know that I would not want to live next to one. And I do know as a real estate broker that it would affect the value of the property. There's no doubt in my mind. So I'm on the side of not letting this be approved at this point. Again, I'm open to more information, but I'm having a hard time with this one. And my last point is, I don't understand, and again, this is probably just my ignorance, but I don't understand what the need is to begin with, because I haven't heard any complaints. I don't have any trouble with service when I'm in that area. I don't see what the need is or what the benefit would be, but I do see a lot of potential negatives.
So I guess I'm trying to just like break this down into sort of the pieces I can understand. So there's the fact that it's a cell tower, and there's the sort of health and welfare that goes with that, which is one piece of it. I guess the thing I keep coming back to that on the other side of it is that this is a commercial site, and theoretically, they could knock down the building that's there and build a 40-foot building, much closer to the site of this house, kind of as of right. And so I'm just trying to balance, like things could happen on this. I'm trying to, I guess, process the property value piece of it. And I feel like there's a lot of things that could happen on this site kind of as of right that would potentially affect the value of this property. And I'm just trying to put in perspective the effect that this would have in relationship to other things that could happen as of right, as I mentioned. And then also just trying to register the sort of health and welfare of a cell tower this close to a residential building property, as opposed to, I would love to have more information, I'll be honest, because I feel like it would be nice to know exhaustively about the capacity and coverage of these towers. In addition, I would like to know how close are the other towers to residential sites. I mean, that would be two pieces of information that would really help me to feel confident that we're being fair and equitable in the way that these are distributed as it relates to our population. So I don't know where that actually leaves me, but. Commissioner Larson?
Yeah, I certainly understand, where you're coming from on those points. I do feel though, as though I'm, aligning, currently, I think it would be great to have additional information, exhaustive why, how have we strongly encouraged the joint use of new and existing towers as the primary option? I haven't seen any particular evidence of that, of kind of going down those lines. But, in section 554.644, again, a section, subsection 1 there, protect residential areas and land uses from potential adverse impacts of towers and antennas. If that's one of the first goals, of the telecommunications facilities section here. And I think that just due to the fact of where it's located, like the right next to multifamily residential area, it backs right up to it. I do think that is of concern and should be taken into account. Encourage in non-residential areas. Again, you're right in that's set number 2. You're right in that buffer area, right back to back with the commercial area, and to minimize the total number of towers throughout the community. Adding another tower isn't minimizing, additional towers, in the community there as well. So I do think that there are, a number of points here in our ordinance that would allow us to either ask for additional information or to kind of not look at this, moving forward, or to deny the application, at this point in time, based on, how our ordinance is currently written.
So Commissioner Larson, just so I'm clear, the information that you would like to see is what other towers exist in addition to these ones that are listed on the Verizon sites and Marquette page? And what else? Do you want to see sort of how close these towers are to residential?
I think, one of the questions was like capacity, is it shown that this is, exactly needed in the area? How strongly were other towers considered? I know the one AT&T tower at the golf course was considered, but is there documentation of why that one wouldn't work beyond, the kind of the 2 sentences saying that it's too far away as far as that goes. So I mean, I think that's one piece of the additional information. As Tony pointed out, asking about the health and safety portion of it and whether or not the city lawyer would, our city attorney would kind of weigh in on whether or not that is admissible for us to take into account as well. I think all those pieces would be helpful to be had, and I'd be open to asking for that, asking for all that information to be considered at a future meeting.
So what you're saying is you want to take the tack that we want to make sure that we have exhausted all of the infrastructure we currently have, and you would like to see some sort of like engineered technical document from, say, Verizon that shows in greater detail this capacity and coverage analysis, which Mr. Stewart spoke of. Is that?
I think we're getting along those lines. I don't exactly know what I fully want out of this. I know that's difficult. I know that's a difficult thing to say. I guess, I just haven't seen, like, there wasn't any additional documentation beyond saying that it was, too far away for that one location. And so, has the city have we strongly encouraged that joint use of existing towers as primary option rather than construction of additional single use towers? Have we pushed that far enough, to help protect the residential areas from that they're adjacent to here from potential adverse impacts?
Okay, Commissioner Coase? Unmute.
Yeah, and just the other question is, okay, I understand that you need a seller or a property owner to allow you to use this, but I think there's a lot of other property that perhaps is in more commercial and it's not as close to residential areas. So what are the other options there? I mean, I'm sure you can't have talked to every property owner, and are there other zones or areas or potential areas where you could have something if the capacity of the current structures are exhausted? And I would like to know exactly what is the capacity of the current structures, what capacity are we at? So for example, a 70%, I mean, I don't know all of the terminology, but we can all learn that. And I want to know exactly what are we at? Are we at 50%? Are we at 95%? And also, what is the current need for additional services? So I also don't have any problem downtown using my phone ever. So what is the proof that we need all of this additional capacity? I mean, we're not growing a lot as a town.
Okay, Commissioner Dunn, followed by Commissioner Ruiz.
Thanks. So at the risk of being redundant, I just want to point out again on 54.644 subsection A, the points 1 through 6 all indicate that the purpose for the ordinance is to protect the well-being of properties, existing properties, and minimizing the number of towers in the area. Not until you get to number 7 do they talk about where, increasing, service of telecommunication services to the community. So to me, that makes it pretty clear that the intent is to protect existing properties, protect residential properties, which come up several times in those first 6 points. And I think when we're talking about weighing the benefits to the community, I haven't seen anything that indicates that we need better service, that we need more capacity in this area. Again, I only have my limited, sphere of influence that I talk to know whether we need better service in that specific area. But, when you weigh that potential benefit, which I don't even know if it actually exists, other than the financial benefit for Verizon and potentially the property owner, which I do take seriously. But when you're weighing a potential economic benefit against potential health risks, potential economic difficulties, potential stressful living situations for a whole bunch of already existing properties that are being lived in as a home, both on the north side of the road and next door, and potentially for properties further up the hill and maybe even to the west that, have views looking through there, and now they're going to be looking out over the cell phone tower that may be blocking the view of the lake or maybe blocking their view of downtown. We have a lot of definitive negatives and so far kind of an unknown benefit. And again, because of the intent of 54.644 and some of those specific items as well that I don't think this satisfies in the land use code there. I just don't see this as being a good thing for the community. And that's exactly why this use is a special use for commercial, because it is potential that it's in the wrong spot. And that's why you do a special use permit, is that maybe it works in some locations and not in others. And I think that we've seen here through public testimony and a lot of the other items in the code that I don't feel this satisfies. I think we've seen that this may not be the right location for it.
Commissioner Ruiz?
I motion at this point to table this to, I believe it's the May 5th meeting.
Can't hold it.
Well, I don't, yeah, I don't.
Joy,
Sorry, go ahead, Wayne. Wayne, Commissioner.
number one, we can't table things. We gotta either vote it up or down. Number two, they meet all the requirements of the ordinance, which means we better have a good reason and we better know what we're talking about before we say it's health, it's this, it's that. You got to have a specific, solid reason. They meet all the intent of the ordinance, so we have no real reason because we feel like this or we feel like that doesn't mean a thing. I think I'm right there, aren't I, Dave? Dave?
Okay, so if you want my opinion, I think that you have some reasons that you could cite in section 644A and 644E. 644E section 2 has some things, if you wanted to delay a decision on this to a further meeting in pursuit of further information, that section contains that's the information required part of the ordinance. So if you want to cite one of those, if you're going to either delay this or deny it, you need to cite part of the ordinance here. Michael's called out some sections that kind of lead towards more of a denial decision. Section E kind of would be the decision to, I think, delay for reasons requiring further information, such as the suitability of the existing towers and structures, a more robust study on, say, the tower here on Wright Street or the other Verizon facilities or other, as the consultant said, these towers are often owned by a party that rents the space to the providers. So the towers aren't necessarily owned by the carriers. I think you have reasons to go either way with that. Honestly, Wayne, I think they can table it or deny it.
Then I would, I want I'd like a vote on my, I'd like to continue to propose my motion then to table this to the next meeting to obtain further information regarding additional towers in the area, to obtain information regarding how close this tower is to the residential homes in the area, for the applicant to provide information regarding the capacity of the towers in the area, as well as the legality of determining whether or not we can consider the health effects of this project, of this special use permit, and in conjunction with that, have a legal opinion from the city attorney regarding whether or not we can consider that.
Andrea, sorry, it's
Sure. Legally, when you table something, you're tabling it for the meeting. So that's not the correct term. If you're asking to postpone it to a date.
Postpone then.
Yeah, and then you need to declare what that date is.
so, and also, but Andrea, I want to be clear. Are we allowed to postpone something and request more information in addition to that postponement?
Yes. So when you state your postponed motion, you have to have the date that you're asking for the material. And then you have to state, like, in his motion, exactly the material that you feel you need to help make the decision to prove that it meets the ordinance.
And I believe the date that I'd be looking for would be May 19th. That's a date, correct?
It would be good to know if the consultant is able to provide information by that date, that further information, if we're going to set that up for a meeting.
Why don't we
That's
just,
the way.
I'd like to be really clear on what we're asking for before we say this. So Tony, you went through a bunch of things really fast.
Okay.
Hey, could I say one more thing?
I want to make sure that we're asking for things that we legitimately should be asking for. So if you could just go through it again.
Okay. I would ask that we postpone a decision. I would motion that we postpone a decision on this matter until May 19th, 2020, or a date subsequent that is reasonable for the applicant to get back to us and to obtain the information needed regarding the additional, and the information that we're looking for is information regarding the additional towers in the area that are not that were not part of the list that were provided. Information as to how close this tower is to the other residential homes in the area.
This tower or other towers?
That's already provided.
Then scratch
closest.
that. I'm just trying to get what we all had as
Right.
as
Well,
issues.
I think one thing I would like to know is how close are the other towers in our community to residential properties?
That's what I was trying to get at then. How close the other towers were to to residences in the area.
And then I think, Tony, sorry, I think what I would like to see in addition to these other towers would be like an actual analysis of this capacity and coverage. Like they've got to be able to have some kind of.
Well, I think, and I understand, and Joy, I understand that. I mean, I'm making the motion. I think that they can
Right.
provide us with whatever they want to provide us in terms of the capacity. So
We're essentially saying they haven't met the bar to convince us that this is the only possible location or the best possible location.
correct. Do you want me to start over?
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
It's okay, right, Dave?
And then information from
You're on
and then
mute.
an opinion from the city attorney as to the legality as to whether or not we can consider the health and safety of this tower in our decision as to whether or not to grant the special use permit.
I would say you can make that motion, but I would say that the city attorney's not going to consider that. That's going to require the city to. How are you going to determine the health effects of it? We would have to hire a third party.
I'm not asking for this. I'm not asking for the city attorney to opine as to the health effects. Just whether or not, as a planning commission, can we as planning commissioners consider the health and safety, or are we preempted by federal law from doing so?
You can consider the health and safety in the first in section A. If you don't think there's not the electromagnetic radiation, but other potential health and safety effects are covered in that 644A section. That's about the only thing. The general, you can't, I don't see how the planning commission can consider the health effects of radiomagnetic radiation. You guys aren't experts in that.
Well, it appears to be that that's what a lot of the comments from the planning commission were geared towards, were the health effects of the tower itself and the effects that the tower has on the community.
Okay, you can keep that in your motion if you like.
There it is.
Do the commissioners feel like, does anybody else have anything they want Tony to add? Do they feel like this covers their concerns? Middlefelt?
Yeah, not to make it even more complicated, but got to be studies like real estate appraisals that can determine in other communities how adjacent land values to similar sized towers have been affected. Just to, I mean, that seems very plausible that the adjoining property would lose value. So any kind of information, you know, we heard the testimony, but I wonder if there's studies that have been done that could provide a little more information about that as well.
Go ahead, if I might.
Commissioner Dunn?
I don't have any problem postponing this, but at the same time, there was a lot of, I guess I've got a lot to say yet. And I don't know if it waits until the next meeting or if we need to get it out now, but you know, Wayne had asked for specifics, and I'll start my list of specifics. Section 54.644, subsection
One
A.
second. In terms of a point of order, there's a motion. Don't we have to have a second?
So, all right, sorry, Commissioner Dunn, we'll give you a chance to chime in, but let's continue this. Okay, so are you completed with your motion, Commissioner Ruiz?
Yes, I'm complete with the motion.
Is there a second for Commissioner Ruiz's motion?
I second.
Okay. Sorry, Dave, can we discuss now, or do we just go straight to a vote?
Yeah. You can go to a vote. I don't have the motion, the complete motion written out.
I think we can discuss though first, right?
Can we discuss first? And then we'll have Tony maybe restate it one more time.
Sounds good.
Okay, so this motion is now open for discussion. And as I understand it, your motion is to postpone till May 19th or later for additional towers not provided, how close they are to other residences, and legality of considering health and safety.
And the capacity.
As well as the coverage and capacity analysis. Okay, so Commissioner Dunn, do you want to speak to Tony's motion?
Yeah, I guess I don't know if it's relevant to the motion or not, because it could certainly both be postponed, but I think that in the interest of the applicant, it would be good if they heard all of at least my concerns, if not the rest of the commission's concerns, so that if we do postpone this and they have a chance to come back, hopefully they can address everything in one go. So
it will be addressed in the motion.
Well, it sounds like you have concerns that are outside of the motion. I guess my thought is, if we're going to be postponing it, unless you have things that you want to add that you think are something they can address between now and the next meeting, I would say if it's something you think they can address, say it now. If it's something that is not going to change between now and the next time they come see us based on this information they're going to give, then I think you can hold off. So it's up to you.
Okay, well, yeah, I guess to clarify, I would need, yeah, so it would be stuff that's pertinent for them to address, and that is health and safety of neighboring properties, not just in regard to electromagnetic, but also to the visual impact and what effect that might have on neighbors' health. Also to the noise of the constant humming and what effect that might have on people's sleep and their health. I would also like to see information in regard to, I think Sarah mentioned it, but somebody had already mentioned it, in regard to property values, because I don't understand how the applicant could suggest that it doesn't impact property values. I don't see how it wouldn't. And then finally, the one thing that hadn't been talked about too much is why a landscape waiver should be granted when that's one of the primary concerns and one of our obligations to protect the residential properties and minimize the impact on the residential properties, why we should be getting away from the specific statement of planting pine trees. I don't think that that when the code was drafted, they would have gone so far as to specifically state pine trees if there wasn't a reason for it. And so, you know, I understand there may be some challenges, but again, going back to subsection A, number one, our primary purpose is to protect residential areas and land uses from potential adverse impacts. So I'm going to need to see information regarding all of those things as well.
Okay. All right, I guess I just want to point out a couple of things, just, and I understand, and I do feel like, again, going back, I think our strongest argument is still that there is a bar based on our code to prove to us that this is necessary. But I just do want to point out again that the building height for this site is 40 feet. So you could literally knock down that building and build 40-foot, much bigger block of building. So to me, just putting that in perspective with the visual component of it, I guess I'm just trying to continually put this in perspective with other things that could be built there. I also want to just, you know, and hopefully if they're able to come back to us, they could also put this in perspective in terms of the noise, if they have ideas in terms of the decibel rating of this, as compares with your average HVAC system for a typical commercial building. Because I think the thing we have to constantly remember is this is a general commercial site. So it is a legitimate use to have a commercial use on this property. And that goes as well for property values. So, you know, and I'm totally open to hearing more information about how cell towers specifically would affect property values, but I just want to reiterate, this is a commercial property. A 40-foot tall, much larger building could be built on this site, which would also impact the property values of this site. I happen to I completely agree with you on the landscape waiver. And if this were moving in a different direction, I would definitely want to put the landscaping back in there. I went by the site, it's steep. I can't see why it's too steep to put. I mean, I personally would have them keep the fence and add more landscaping. I think that would be a great way to sort of, you know, mitigate this issue that we are right next to a residential site. But that's kind of in the weeds at this point based on the bigger issues that we're talking about. So I just want to, that's kind of where I stand on those things. But I think it's good for our applicant to hear. So does anybody have anything further to add to Tony's motion? Michael, Commissioner Michael.
I don't necessarily have anything to add to the motion, but I mean, as far as discussing, you know, postponing versus not postponing, you know, there's still going to be same complaints about character of neighborhood and so on and so forth that come in after, even if some of this information is given back to us. You know, to Wayne's point, you know, voting it up or down, you know, if it were voted down, I guess this would be a question for Dave. If we didn't postpone it and we just did a vote on it and we voted it down right now, would the applicant be able to come back and do another request, you know, for essentially the same piece, and knowing what we know now? Does that make sense, Dave? Knowing that these are all the concerns that are out there.
Yeah, it makes sense. I don't know if we could really, if they could apply for this within a year. It's basically the same site plan. That won't make sense. Once a site plan's denied, it's denied.
And I guess the only reason I bring it up is because we still have the residents in the area. We're still right next to that residential area. We're still going to have those considerations of like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. They know that we are going to be looking at. And so, you know, none of us are necessarily experts, you know, on capacity. I know I say that, you know, I would like more information on it. However, I don't know, you know, am I going to be able to interpret that, you know, in such a way that, you know, I can make a business decision? Because for Verizon or their projections, you know, out, you know, several years for growth of Marquette or so on and so forth, I'm just putting out there that there's still going to be concerns for the residents in that area on, you know, visual impact, on you know, potential issues with that being built, you know, right next door. I understand Joy's point as well. It could be a building, you know, and there may be, you know, but the issue at hand is, you know, the communications tower. And, you know, if there is a 40-foot building that's put up there, you know, that would be something I guess that's for another time to discuss, and the neighbors could come out and say, this is that's an issue at that point in time. So I'm just putting it out there that, if this was, to Wayne's point, an up or down vote, maybe that makes more sense, primarily because we are still going to have concerns for character and whatnot of that neighborhood, down the line, even if we do get some additional information.
Commissioner Andres?
I'm in favor of not postponing it. Let's vote on it up or down tonight and decide what we're going to do.
Well, we have a motion with a second, so we need to vote on that. So does anybody else have any additional discussion as to Tony's motion? Oh, sorry, Commissioner Dunn.
Real quick, I'm in agreement with Commissioner Larson in that I'm not in favor of postponing, because even with the information that I'm requesting, I don't see how that's going to change my opinion based on the location of the property, for whatever that's worth.
Okay. So Dave, do you need Tony to restate his motion for the record?
Yes,
Okay, so unless there's
slowly.
discussion on Tony's specific motion, I would like to have Tony restate his motion for the record. And then it's already been seconded by Commissioner Brooks. So then I think we can go ahead and vote on it. Does that sound okay, Dave?
Yes.
I would motion to postpone this agenda item until May 19th, 2020, or a subsequent date as can be prepared for by the applicant, so that the applicant can
Slow down,
provide.
Tony. Can provide
information regarding additional towers that were not provided in the provided list. Information regarding how close residences are to other towers in the area. Information including an analysis as to the capacity of the towers in the area. And separate from that, a legal opinion from the city attorney as to whether or not we can consider the health effects of the tower, the health and safety effects of the tower regarding transmission of signal, whatever, I guess regarding transmission of signal and radio waves in our decision, given the potential for a federal preemption.
And Dave, do you need him to cite the piece of code where he?
that last part about what you're asking of the city attorney and how that factors into your motion to deny. Could you kind of repeat that? Because it's not making a lot of sense to me.
It's a motion to postpone, yes?
Correct.
Yeah.
What I want to know is whether or not the planning commission, and the word is escaping me, but the actual operation of that tower, can we consider the health and safety effects of the operation of that tower on the community when giving our decision.
I see you, Commissioner Andres. Let's let him get through this. And Tony, is there any piece of the code that you want to cite as just to kind of reinforce? I guess I'm thinking of 54.64, number 5 or 4.
1 second. Would be the 54.644 wireless telecommunications facilities, number 5.
Section
A5, I
A.
believe.
Section A. Do you have that, Dave?
Yeah, well, it's not section A. What's the adverse impact on the community is minimal. Okay.
So you got it?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So Commissioner Andrews, do you have something to say? I want to bring this to a vote. So we had discussion. So unless it's something.
I was just gonna ask that we do a roll call vote individually with individual members saying yay or nay, just so they can have it on record rather than everybody saying A or nay.
Okay, I think that makes sense. We can do that. Okay, so then I'll do a roll call vote and I will say your name. And at that point you can say yay or nay. Okay, does that sound? We already had a second, so I can just go into the vote, right, Dave?
Yeah.
Okay, so now I'm gonna do a roll call vote. So I'm gonna go one by one. Okay, so on the motion presented by Commissioner Ruiz, Wayne, can you give us your vote?
This is to delay for a week,
This is the postponement.
whatever.
Yes.
I'll go along with that, yes.
Okay. Commissioner Ruiz.
Yes.
Commissioner Andres.
Nay.
Commissioner Middlefelt. You're on mute.
Nay.
Commissioner Dunn.
Nope. Nay.
Commissioner Coase.
Nay.
Commissioner Larson, you're on mute. Oh.
Nay.
Commissioner Brooks.
Yay.
And I vote yay. I don't know what that added up to.
4 to 5. Motion
4
failed.
yes, 5 no. Motion fails.
Okay, so we need to then move on to having a motion for voting up or down on this item, correct?
Another motion.
Commissioner Dunn?
Okay, give me a second. So I move that after review of the site plan dated 3/5/20 with supplemental documentation, the Planning Commission finds that the request does not meet the intent and requirements of the Land Development Code, sections 54.1403, 54.1402, and 54.644, and hereby denies 04 SUP 0420 as presented.
You mind repeating that, Mike?
Yes.
I didn't catch
I'll give
some
it
of
a
that.
try. So
With
at
the
the review,
request is, if you could just pick up where the request does not meet the intent
okay,
of,
that the request does not meet the intent and requirements of the Land Development Code, sections 54.1403, 54.1402, and 54.644, and hereby denies 04 special use permit 0420 as presented.
Do you want to specifically point out any subsections of 54.644?
I certainly can. I don't know if that should be part of the motion or not.
54644A.
A, numbers 1, 2, and 4.
Okay. And the other sections again were 541403.
Yep, give me just a second to get to the other one. Yeah, 54.1403, subsection B, item 2.
Okay.
Item 4, and item 6.
Okay.
And then 1402. E1.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, I'm sorry, and number 4 as well under subsection E.
Okay.
Do you have that, Dave?
Yes.
Okay, do we have a second for Commissioner Dunn's motion?
Second.
Okay, Commissioner Ruiz seconds the motion. Do we need to have further discussion or can we go straight into a vote? Vote? No, nobody was, okay. So let's do a roll call vote again. And so I will call you out by name. Sorry. So the voting on the motion submitted by Commissioner Dunn. Let's start again with you, Wayne.
Can I ask for,
Oh,
can I interject something at all, or is there no more comment?
well, comment is closed.
All right.
So yeah, let's. Wayne, can you give us your vote?
No.
Commissioner Ruiz?
No.
Commissioner Andres?
No.
Wait, okay.
You're voting against the motion, right?
You're voting to deny this, right? Everybody?
Yes.
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 Well, the motion is to deny.
So if
Yeah,
you want to deny it, then you need to say yes.
Yeah. Yes. We have 3 no's so far.
Okay. So Commissioner Middlefield,
Support.
Commissioner Dunn,
Yes.
Commissioner Coase,
Yes.
Commissioner Larson,
Yes.
and I vote no. Oh, Commissioner Brooks, sorry.
No.
So what did that end up as, Dave?
You voted no.
I voted no. Commissioner Brooks voted no.
Again, you got a 5-4 no. Motion failed.
Okay.
It's 4-5, and that's why the motion failed.
But Was there a misunderstanding at the beginning of what was yay and what was nay? That's what I.
No.
There was, I checked. Okay, so does somebody else want to present a motion?
Can I say something? This is Aaron Valley. Can you explain to me the no's and the yeses on that last roll? Because there seemed to be a confusing, because when I added everything up, I got 5 no's and 4 yeses. So 5 no's meaning it won't be denied.
The motion
Right.
failed. So that means the motion failed, so that we have yet to pass a motion that successfully addresses your application.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
So yeah, we need somebody else to make a motion regarding this.
Do you want to get some more input from the consultant, Joey?
Yeah, why don't we give Mr. Stewart an opportunity to speak? Mr. Stewart?
Yes, thank you. Certainly, from my point of view, it would be a preference to be able to get you more information that it doesn't seem like, the understanding is there in terms of, the needs of Verizon. It seems like there's a couple misunderstandings with some of the tower issues, because the one issue I think it came out is that the map is not correct, and you have to remember that the towers are not owned by Verizon. The map that was provided to you folks was the map of Verizon sites where they're located. The health and safety issue has been settled for quite a bit, and unfortunately, local entities do not have the ability to deny a communications facility based on health and safety issues. There was quite a bit of discussion. I'm not sure the capacity question is going to be a hard one to try to get, because that a lot of times is more proprietary to Verizon and the different carriers. But I guess with landscaping, we could maybe work on. There's really no noise, so I mean, it would be nice to have the opportunity to kind of click off one by one your concerns to help maybe feel better about this process.
Commissioner Coase.
So basically, you can't tell us about the current demand and you can't tell us about the current capacity, which I think are 2 main questions to decide, do we need this? Is what is the capacity and what is the demand?
Well, yeah, me personally, I'm not going to be able to do that, but that's an RF engineering question, and we can certainly work at getting that answer to you.
I don't see any way I would feel comfortable passing this if you can't answer those questions. I think those are basic questions that should have been answered at this meeting. It seems strange not to be offered that kind of information.
Commissioner Middlefield.
Now that we've had a couple votes, I actually wouldn't mind going back to Commissioner Ruiz's initial motion. I might have a different opinion now, kind of knowing where everybody is thinking about this. It can't hurt to get more information. I don't know if my feelings about this, and for all of the reasons that Commissioner Dunn mentioned, I don't know if I'll have much change of heart, but it really can't hurt to get more information. So I don't know, Tony, if you can remember all of the caveats of that, but if you would make that motion, I think maybe it might shake out differently at this point.
Can we do that, Dave? Can we revote on Tony's, if he re-brings it up?
You could vote on another version of that. I do think Mr. Stewart is correct, though, with the health impacts, that local governments cannot decide on health impacts.
Commissioner Coase?
We don't need to only talk about health impacts. We can talk about the well-being of our community. So I think it goes beyond health impacts. I think we all.
Yeah, I'm talking about the radiomagnetic part of this.
Radioactivity off the table, but there's a lot of other well-being of our community issues that we are, from what I'm understanding, allowed to talk about.
I agree with Commissioner Cozen that I think our strongest argument to request more information is Commissioner Larson's initial thing, which is, is this the only location for it? Have they exhausted all other opportunities? Can we keep the towers in our community to a minimum? And can you prove that to us? And I feel like as a group, we don't feel like that's where I stand. Commissioner Ruiz?
Frankly, in terms of the health and safety one, I have no problem not adding that as part of my motion. In terms of the legality and the opinion from the city attorney, I based that off of the comments that were being made, I believe, by the commissioners, and I felt that the commission needed to have that answer, because I felt we were still kind of factoring that in the back of our minds. But it seems to me like at this point, we've come to the understanding that we cannot, which I frankly agree with Guy, which is we cannot consider that as part of our decision-making process. So I would be happy to remake the motion without that fourth factor or the fourth request, which was the legal opinion from the city attorney. If that's, what I guess is being encouraged.
Well, if nobody has any other thoughts, I would encourage you to do that and see if we can get a second.
At this time, I motion to.
Wait, sorry, Wayne, did you have something to say?
Yeah, we're supposed to vote on fact, not on feelings, and we're getting a lot of feelings here and not fact. If we don't know what we're talking about and we don't have the actual stuff with us, then we shouldn't discuss it. We should be talking about fact, not possibility.
I think.
So if we want to delay this till the next meeting and ask for information, let's do that.
I agree, Wayne, and I think Tony, based on text within the code, Tony has a legitimate request for this additional information. So I would encourage you to resubmit your submission, Tony. Commissioner.
Okay, so I would motion at this point to postpone this agenda item to May 19th, 2020, or a subsequent date as the applicant can be ready for, so that the applicant can provide information about additional towers in the area that is not on the list that was provided, to provide information to the Planning Commission regarding other towers in the area and how close residences are to them, as well as information or an analysis as to the current capacity of the towers and the need for a further tower such as this. And I would make that motion based on section 54.644 A5 of the Land Development Code.
Second.
I think 4 is in there too.
I'll add 4 too then.
And I'll second again.
Commissioner Brooks seconds. Let's make sure Dave has the motion.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So unless somebody wants to speak up for further discussion, I'm going to go ahead and do a roll call vote. And all right, let's go in a different order this time. Commissioner Brooks.
Yay.
Commissioner Larson.
Yay.
Commissioner Coase.
Yay.
Commissioner Dunn.
Yes.
Commissioner Middlefelt. You're on mute.
Yes.
Commissioner Andres.
Yes.
Commissioner Ruiz.
Yes.
Commissioner Primo.
Yes.
And I vote yes.
9-0.
Motion passes. So, Mr. Stewart, will May 19th work for you? Do you feel like you need a later date? Is that something you want to reach out to Andrea and negotiate the actual date on?
I think at this point, I would say May 19th would work, and I can certainly go back and discuss it with Andrea.
Okay. Okay, well, thank you.
Thank you very much for the discussion.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, only 3 left to go. Moving on to item B, 05 SUP 04 2020 351 West Washington Street, marijuana retailer. Andrea?
At this point,
What?
I'll be muting myself and stopping video.
Okay.
Okay, Tony's out, so I'm gonna share the screen again. All right, 05 SUP 0420 351 West Washington Street. Staff has reviewed the special land use permit for a marijuana retailer located at 351 West Washington Street and provided the staff file review and analysis, which had all of the Article 6 requirements, the site plan review requirements, and the special land use requirements, along with the attachments of the special land use permit application and their required narrative stating how they are going to meet those requirements in Article 6. And their site plan review application. Staff comments. And then the applicant's answers to the staff comments. The area map, the parcel is outlined in blue. The block map, the parcel's outlined in blue. Photos of the site. The site plan. Correspondence that was submitted prior to the agenda going out from Curran. And then there were additional pieces of correspondence that have been submitted. But also, sorry, I'm losing the, Dave, can you start reading the correspondence? I'm having an issue with the sharing of the screen to let me get into.
Yeah, well, in addition to correspondence from residents or other concerned parties, we did get another item of correspondence from the consultant that Andrea is going to share with you. That's really not, an opinion. And that's really about the loading area. And so when Andrea gets that, there it is, where Mr. Ritchie says, we sent this in response to looking over the notes and responses for the meeting tomorrow. This may help graphically where loading from vendors can and may occur. Most vendors drop off product in the garage via a small truck off of 5th Street. The retail product sales does not require a large truck, large like a semi, but to comply with zoning and loading, the existing drive is large enough to stage the required space for loading, including the turning radius to access a larger truck. So if you have any questions about that, Mr. Ritchie can answer that, but that's some helpful information. Other comments that we have one from Ryan Hamtramck to the Marquette Planning Commission. I, Ryan Hamtramck, recently received a letter from the city of Marquette at the offices of SR Enterprises and Northern Hydroponics on 401 West Washington. As owner and operator, I'm pleased to hear of the proposed land use next door for a marijuana establishment. I feel that this will increase business, bring more economic growth to the area, and increase the value of real estate within the downtown area. Thanks, Ryan Hamtramck. We have one from Mr. Robert Wood of Wood Jewelers saying, Dear Marquette Planning Commission members, I'm writing in support of granting the necessary licenses and permits for the marijuana retailer at 351 West Washington, Marquette. I do support the granting of licensing and permits for the marijuana retailer. I do believe it will be a benefit for the downtown area and specifically, and especially the blocks surrounding the store, of which Wood Jewelers is in close proximity. Thanks in advance for your consideration of my input. Sincerely, Robert Wood. From Matt Goujon, Andrea and Sean, please consider this email the full-throated support of the Marquette Food Co-op for the marijuana retail business proposed for 351 West Washington. The benefits such an operation will bring to Marquette are numerous and particularly needed in a time as such we find ourselves. And currently, we believe this business will add vibrancy to the downtown, needed revenue for the city, create jobs, and help people. We hope unnecessary obstacles are cleared so that new commerce may commence 2 blocks from our doors. Sincerely, Matt Goujon, General Manager of Marquette Food Co-op. And from Daniel Croney, hello, Planning Committee. My name is Daniel Croney. My wife and I own the property at 340 West Washington. I'm writing you to comment on the proposed cannabis dispensary located at 351 West Washington and express my acceptance and excitement for this business. We strongly believe this will add to the overall downtown atmosphere of our beautiful city and increase property values for us and many residential and commercial properties near it. Washington Street, and specifically the portion east of 7th Street, is one of the many reasons tourists and locals alike spend time and money downtown. We believe that the cannabis dispensary will be a great complement to the many restaurants, bars, shops, and recreational activities our downtown is known for, and look forward to welcoming our new neighbors to the block. Thank you, Daniel Croney. I think that's all of them, Andrea.
Anything else?
That's it for the 351 West Washington.
Okay, Sean, do you want to bring in the applicant to speak on their behalf?
Sure.
West Washington.
Okay, Sean, do you want to bring in the applicant to speak on their behalf?
Sure.
Hi, my name is Logan Stauber. Can you hear me?
We can hear you. Yep.
Perfect. So my name is Logan Stauber of 2091 Wilkinson Avenue, Marquette, Michigan. I am co-owner of the Fire Station LLC. Sorry, I'm hearing the delay in the background. Anyways, so we are looking to propose our second location for the fire station at 351. And we are expecting that we'll be hiring 50 to 75 new employees for this location, investing over $1 million for the actual investment of this business. I just wanted to cite a couple studies for concerns about property values and crime values. I know those are like the two main points and concerns for people when it comes to provisioning centers. A study from the Regional Science and Urban Economics Journal, they did a study between 2013 to 2016. The journal cited bringing drug use out of the shadows reduces harm to the community. Basically, their study concluded that an additional dispensary in a neighborhood leads to the reduction of 17 crimes per month per 10,000 residents and equates to a 19% decline in crime relative to the average crime rate over that sample period, which I thought was pretty huge. Also, I just wanted to express my thanks for the entire Planning Commission for reviewing our application.
Thank you. Is there anybody else from your team that wants to speak, or?
I believe Stash might have something to say.
Mr. Wasik, did you want to add anything? You're on mute.
Oh. No, I think you pretty much covered it. I guess I just want to thank you guys for taking time out of your night, and I know this is going to be a long one, so I appreciate that. And yeah, I'm just here to answer any questions and help the process along.
Thank you. Okay, do any of the commissioners have any questions for Mr. Wasik or sorry, what is your last name again? Logan?
Stauber,
Mr. Wasik or Mr. Stauber? And
Stauber, Stauber.
Jessica, just so you're aware, we lost your video, if it matters to you.
Oh yeah, I was aware. Andrew let me know there.
So do we have any questions for our applicants? It does not like we have any questions for you. So if you guys want to go ahead and put on mute, we'll let you know if we have questions for you. But you can just listen along. Okay, so that's the applicant. Dave, you went through all the correspondence, correct? So we don't have to do that. Is there anybody who is not the applicant that you know of that wants to speak during our public testimony portion?
Only if there's questions related to the actual building itself or the site plans. We do have our architects.
No, okay, yeah, we'll let you know, Mr. Stauber. I'm talking to Andrea. Sorry, we'll let you know when you come back. You can go on mute, and we will say your name if we want you to unmute. Okay.
Yep, I'm bringing Tim Quinnell, who in the first thing, he's here to speak for the 351.
Okay. Hi, Mr. Quinnell. Can you please state your name and address for the record? Can you hear me, first of all? Mr. Quinnell? Mr. Quinnell?
Tim, you need to enable your audio. There should be a microphone button in the bottom of your screen. Tim, can you hear us?
Mr. Quinnell? He can't hear us. I don't know what you...
I don't know if I have a...
Mr. Quinnell, we can't hear you. You need to get your audio functioning.
Andrea, do you have his phone number?
I have his email.
It looks like maybe somebody's trying to help him.
You type something in the chat box too to him. See if he can put it there for you.
And then there's also a new number in there, and I don't know what case that would be for in the waiting room.
We see a phone number 906-373-9070.
So that's Dax, the architect.
Oh, that's Dax. Okay.
So he's in the waiting room. Sean, do we want to bring the other person in while Tim's figuring that out?
Yeah,
the 361-1966. That wasn't in there before. Oh, now it's gone.
I just let him in.
Okay.
Hi, 361-1966. Are you here to speak on this item?
Yeah, I was here. I am here. I am a neighbor that lives close to where the marijuana dispensary will be opening up. And my concern is the lack of parking and the congestion that would develop, and how would that be handled?
We would need your name and address.
My name is Margie O'Keefe, and it's 113 North 5th Street.
Does that conclude your comment?
Yeah, that was my major concern. And, what hours of operation would they be open, considering that there are residential homes in this area?
361-1966. Are you here to speak on this item?
Okay. Yes, I'm here.
We will address your concerns. So you're worried about you're concerned about parking, and you're concerned about the hours of operation.
Correct.
Okay. Thank you for your comments.
If that was developed and how it was done.
Tim, I need you to mute your TV.
All right. Can you hear me all right now?
Yeah, we can hear you. Joy, go ahead.
Hi, Mr. Quinnell. Can you please state your name and address for the record? And please that we're trying to keep comments to 3 minutes.
No problem. Tim Quinnell, 419 West Washington. My initial concern is the parking lot that other caller had. Right now, the hydroponics store has a lot of their customers use my parking lot, which right now during the quarantine is not a huge problem. We're not having, in fact, our office is shut down and closed. But I'm afraid that on the TV last night, they had a video from the provisioning center in Agani Township, and there must have been 15 to 20 cars in the parking lot all waiting to get in, or maybe there was a drive-through. I'm not sure what it was. But I could just imagine the congestion and the problems that that's going to cause. In addition, I was concerned when I looked at the application, it looked like the hours are going to be from 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. Unless I misread that. That appears to be difficult to me. So I'd like the commission to address those concerns.
I don't think this is working.
Can I just ask what you said your parking lot, what property is your parking lot?
So I'm at 419 West Washington. It's
Okay.
in between the Coach Light and the Northern Hydroponics.
Okay.
And there's no gate on the parking lot or anything, but right now a lot of the customers from hydroponics use my parking lot because their parking lot gets full. And so I'm just concerned that that's going to happen again with the provisioning center. So that's where my main concern is, parking, and also the hours of operation. Personally, I think that the business operation, I hope it works out for them. But if it's going to become too congested in that area, perhaps there's a different spot they can find.
Thank you, Mr. Quinnell. Where'd Sean go? I lost Sean.
I'm here.
Oh, okay. Okay, so you got him. All right. Is there anybody else, or is that all of our-
Andrea, who's Peter Nagel? Is he related to a different item? You're on mute.
Yeah, he's here for the 2025
Okay.
US.
I think that's everybody then.
Okay. So public testimony. Okay, do we want to move on to discussion of this item? Somebody like make a motion to suspend the rules?
I'll make a motion to suspend the rules for discussion.
Okay, Commissioner Middlefelt, can we get a second on that? Commissioner Larson seconds.
Second.
All in favor of suspending the rules for discussion? Say aye.
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 Aye. Everybody make sure Aaron, your mute is on. And so Commissioner Coase,
Aye.
your mute is on.
Oh,
Okay.
sorry. I have to leave for a minute to put my kids to bed, and I will have to come back. Is that allowed?
Yeah, can we? I think that's fine.
Dave's on mute.
We'll just, can we note that she's absent for a few minutes?
Yes.
Okay. And Commissioner Brooks, you're still on mute as well, if you want to go off mute for this vote.
I did unmute it and I did say aye. I just
Okay.
remuted it.
So let's just do it again. All in favor of suspending discussion, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
Nay.
Okay, Aaron is opposed for discussion. Okay. The motion passes. Would anybody like to speak to this? Commissioner Middlefelt, do you want to?
Well, I mean, I think we spent a lot of time looking at the zoning around the various forms of marijuana use and distribution, manufacturing. And I think we had a lot of discussion and identified this as a particularly good artery for marijuana retail. Everything looked really good in the application. All of these letters of support show that they've kind of, done their homework, and I have no qualms with this. I guess my only question is just with the comment about parking, if maybe the applicant could speak to that, but otherwise this looks pretty good to me.
I'd be happy to speak on the parking. If you look at the parking that we're allowed in the property, there's 8 spots across the back, and then given that our parking on the side of the building is considered a driveway, there's also 13 spots there. So I think we're qualified for 21 spots on the property. It seems like a lot more than what's actually available, but we do have 21 spots. And then we're also trying to secure rental parking across the street adjacent to the Christ gas station and Odavera properties there as well for ancillary parking for employees if it comes to that. And then as well as extra parking behind my other business at Northern Hydroponics. There's the alley there where there's several parking there. We're going to see if we can't secure leaseholds for extra employee parking to help bring down the congestion. But I feel that of all the locations where marijuana retailers are allowed in the downtown area and the 3rd Street corridor, it has more parking than any other option.
Can I just, Mr. Wasik or Mr. Stauber, you mentioned how many employees are you planning on having? Did you say?
We're currently at our one location, we are at 26 employees, and it won't scale exactly equal with both, but we assume it'll be similar to that because we will have a lot of employees that will be able to cross over to the new location. So we're assuming we're going to bring, I think, 20 to 25 jobs to the downtown area there.
Okay, but those won't all be at the same time. Typically.
No. That's to staff the entire place. Like our hours of operation are 15 hours a day, so you can't expect our
What are your
employees.
hours of operation again? I know it's in the application. Can you?
In the application, we have them listed for 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. because we don't want to short ourselves the ability to be open for those. If we decide to be open for shorter hours, we can always adjust it. But we didn't want to submit for shorter hours in case we wanted to extend ourselves to the hours that the ordinance allows us to do so for.
Okay. Do you have other commissioners who want to speak to this?
My only comment there would be also, if the applicant, there did seem to be some concern about parking. I know you've got parking on the site, but some concern that, overflow parking moving to, I apologize, I didn't write our previous caller's information down. Tim's. Tim suggested that, there's folks that were kind of using his lot, asking the applicant, just to kind of reiterate that, to employees and others that, you have kind of parking on site as well as street parking, and that, his lot is, his private lot for his business that he has. Absolutely.
And I've been at that location. I've owned that building for 5 years, and this is the first I've ever heard of any issues with any of my customers parking over there. So I'd be happy to start directing my customers to make sure that they don't park in Tim's lot in the future. I was unaware of any of that. So we do our best to keep our customers in our lot, and we can change our signage to make sure that they don't do that.
Okay, anybody else? Yeah, I think this is pretty straightforward to me. I think the parking is going to be an issue. We don't have parking requirements, well, because it's the CBD, so you're going to have issues one way or the other. So I don't think that's something that's particular to this being a marijuana retailer or this special land use. So yeah, I couldn't really find anything to pick apart about it. So if somebody wants to make a motion.
I'll go ahead and make a motion. After review of the site plan set dated March 2nd, 2020 with supplemental documentation and staff file analysis for 05 SUP 04-20, the Planning Commission finds that the request meets the intent and requirements of the Land Development Code, sections 54.1403, 54.1402, and 54.628, and hereby approves 05-04-20.
Second.
What, Andrea? Sorry?
With the condition that we're asking for, would you consider that to meet staff comments, a revised plan to meet staff comments?
Oh, right. As staff comments with the following condition approval, that amended plan is submitted to meet staff comments. Sorry, Andrea.
Who seconded? I'm sorry.
I did. I second.
Second by Commissioner Brooks. I think we should go ahead with roll call for all of these, just because it's so hard to make sense of it otherwise. So I'm going to just call out your name. Unless Anybody want further discussion, or can I go ahead and do a vote? Okay, let's do it. Commissioner Brooks,
Yay.
Commissioner Larson,
Yay.
Commissioner Dunn,
Yes.
Commissioner Andres,
Yes.
Commissioner Middlefelt,
Yes.
Commissioner Primo,
No.
and I vote yes. So the motion carries. Okay, so it looks like we're done with this one.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Have a good night. Appreciate your time.
Mhm. Tony, you can come back in.
Voila.
Okay, moving on. I gotta turn the lamp. I can't see anymore. Public hearing item C 06 SUP 04 2020 521 Barraca Street duplex dwelling in MDR district. Andrea?
Staff has reviewed the special land use permit for the conversion of a single-family home to duplex dwelling located at 521 West Barraga Avenue. The Board of Zoning Appeals approved a 7-foot side yard variance, a 15-foot lot width variance, and a 785 square foot lot area variance from the City of Marquette Land Development Code Special Land Use Required Conditions for a duplex dwelling request at their February 6, 2020 regular meeting. You had your staff file review analysis, which, sorry, I lost my mouse. Here we go. Which had the Article 6 duplex dwelling requirements, and then were stated again the items that they received a variance from. And then your special land use standards. And then I included the Board of Zoning Appeals motion that they had. And the conditions on their motion was that the proposed parking area is added to the property as shown per the location sketch, and the proposed hard surface meets the Land Development Code hard surface requirements, and that the applicant must receive special land use approval from the Planning Commission. Attached, you had their special land use application, the required narrative, the area map, the parcels outlined in blue, the block map, the parcels outlined in blue, photos of the site, the location sketch. Now, one thing to note, per the conversation they were having with the BZA, they may go with the gravel or they may go with a different type of hard surface, but per the BZA, all they wanted the area that they're showing, but as long as that hard surface meets the definition of a hard surface in the ordinance, they were fine with that. And then we had additional correspondence. Dave?
Yeah, there's just one piece of correspondence from Tom Hogan. Says, we own the property next door, 525 West Barraga, and find that Northern Green Properties works with others to upgrade the neighborhood. They are a first-class property owner. Everything has been brought up to code. Old barns and eyesores have been removed. Parking has been enhanced. We believe this property should be converted to a duplex. Tom Hogan, Rock Street Properties.
Okay, does that complete that?
Yes.
Piece? Okay.
Sorry.
So Sean, can we bring in our applicant to speak on their behalf?
You got that, Andrea?
Yeah, one should be showing up right now, and I just got.
Yeah.
It should be Mr. Byer
Yes.
and then Mr. Byer Senior.
Yes.
We got him.
Mr. Byer Senior, whichever one of you would like to speak on behalf of this project, can you please state your name and address? and then you can tell us whatever you'd like to say.
Patrick Beyer Senior, 217 Cherry Creek Road, Marquette, Michigan.
Okay, go ahead, and if you want to say anything on behalf of your project, now would be the time.
I guess I'm just asking whatever questions you might have for me. As far as the parking area, we are looking to upgrade that to hard surface, 6-inch gravel. We have already went through the zoning board. Everybody else around the area seems to be fine with us there, and we're just looking to upgrade the property to make it better for the neighborhood.
Thank you, Mr.
Any
Beyer.
questions?
Yeah, does anybody on the commission have a question for Mr. Beyer? Mr. Beyer, can you just clarify? It sounded like from the text of the variance, this is a property that's historically been a duplex, and just because of non-use, that's why you lost the duplex status. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. All right. Thank you, Mr. Beyer. If we have any further questions, we'll let you know, but you can put yourself on mute or just listen in, I guess.
Okay.
Do we have any public testimony aside from our applicants? No? Okay.
No, I don't think so.
No public testimony. Do we want to have a discussion? Do we want to have a vote? Where does everybody stand on this? Commissioner Larson?
I would make a motion. So okay. I'd make a motion after review and staff file analysis for 06 SUP 0420. The Planning Commission finds that the request meets the intent and requirements of the Land Development Code sections 54.1403 and 54.613, and hereby approves 06 SUP 0402 with the following conditions: that the proposed parking area is added to the property as shown for the location sketch, and the proposed hard surface meets the Land Development Code and hard surface requirements.
I'd second.
Okay, Commissioner Ruiz gives us a second. Speak up now if you want to have discussion. Otherwise, I'm going to go ahead and do a roll call vote. Okay, so let's start with Commissioner Primu. Do you want to vote on this motion? Wayne?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, Commissioner Middlefeld?
Yes.
Commissioner Ruiz?
Yes.
Commissioner Andres?
Yes.
Commissioner Dunn?
Yes.
Commissioner Larson?
Yes.
Commissioner Brooks?
Yes.
And I vote yes. The motion carries.
Jessica, not back yet?
No, she's not.
Okay, just want to make sure.
So then for the buyers, you have your approval, and I'll send you your special land use decision letter in the mail.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Okay, knocking them out. Here we go. Moving on to public hearing D07 SUP 04-2020, 200 South 5th Street, single family dwelling in Central Business District. Andrea?
Okay. Okay, staff has reviewed the special land use permit for an attached single family dwelling located at 200 South 5th Street. And the attached staff file review analysis, I'm sorry, in the staff file review analysis, you had your requirements for the zoning district and the special land use requirements for this. There were no specific ones for this use, but there are the 14 items that you have to look at. Also, the site plan review standards. And then the application. There's site plan review application. Staff comments. Applicant's response to staff comments. Then the response back to the staff comments, and then the staff's responses. The area map, the parcel, and the parcel that they are purchasing from the city is outlined in blue. The same with the block map. Photos of the site. And the site plan. And then they had the attachments about the sale of property. And that was it. We did not receive any more correspondence after the agenda for this case.
Okay, do we want to bring in the applicant? Is anybody here on behalf of this?
Hello,
Hello, who do we have with us?
Matt Trito, UP Engineers and Architects, 2915 Parkview Drive. And then I believe Rich Teggy, who's the owner, is in the waiting room. Phone number 906-250-1819.
Okay, do we want to bring in the applicant? Okay, I have on the YouTube audio. You could turn it off because we get feedback from that.
Hello,
Hi, who do we have with us?
Matt Trito, UP Engineers and Architects, 2915.
If we just make sure we mute TV and YouTube audio.
The owner is in the waiting room. Phone number 906-250-1819.
Hey, Rich, can you mute your TV or YouTube?
Sure.
Okay, I have a ear on the YouTube audio. You could turn it off. Okay. Hopefully that's off now. All right, Mr. Trader or Mr. Teggy, if either one of you want to give your name and address and then speak on behalf of your project, please go ahead and do that now.
Yeah, Matt Trito, 2915 Parkview Drive from UP Engineers and Architects. Here with Rich Teggy, just answering any of your questions that you have on the renovations of the old railroad depot. Rich, feel free to introduce yourself and add anything you want to say to the Planning Commission.
Sure. Rich Teggy, owner of Wealth Strategy Group. We're looking to remodel the old depot and create offices and an apartment under what's been outlined. I presently live at 10474 East Road, Republic, Michigan.
Thank you. Do any of our commissioners have any questions for Mr. Trado or Mr. Teggy? Doesn't look like it. All right, so you guys can just hang on and listen in.
Okay.
Do we have any public testimony on this project? No?
Doesn't look like it.
No.
Okay. Where is our commission at? Do we want to have a discussion on this? Do we want to have a vote? What do you guys think? Commissioner Dunn.
I motion to suspend the rules for discussion.
Okay, can we get a second?
I'd second.
Commissioner Ruiz seconds. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And any opposed? Motion carries. Commissioner Dunn.
Just a quick question for staff. And where are they at with the catch basins, and was the engineer satisfied now? Did they locate those? Is it pertinent? I don't know what to make of that.
If Matt wanted to answer that too, it was discussion that once the snow melts and everything, they want the revised site plan to have that location shown. Would I be correct in that, Matt?
Yeah, we're just, we're gonna pick up the locations of those catch basins, as part of our as-built drawing requirements to submit to the city of Marquette. We weren't able to locate them since there was significant amount of snowbanks, we believe, where they're at. So we'll have to find them when we put our as-built drawings together.
Okay. And then my only other question was regarding the entrances on the kind of facing to the south. There was I don't have it right in front of me, but there was something in the land use code that mentioned that the entrances should face the address street that it's on. It's not an issue for me, but I'm just wondering if there's something that I'm missing that I'm not thinking about, like why that would be an issue and why it even came up.
I
don't have anything on that, Matt.
No, I guess I'm not sure exactly. We're utilizing an existing entrance, and so we're not modifying any entrances to 5th Street. So I don't know if I'm missing anything there, but.
Okay. Andrea, I think you're muted.
Michael, you're asking about the location of building entrances in the code. So he's stating in the code, it says for consistency in areas where adjoining properties face the street, the planning commission may require that primary structures shall be orientated so that the main entrance faces the street upon which the lot fronts. The developments on a corner lot, the main entrance may be oriented to either street or to the corner. So it's up to the planning commission if you're wanting to enforce that for any reason.
And we're just utilizing the existing entrances in the building. We haven't changed where those doors are at.
Commissioner Dunn, you're on mute.
I guess I'm assuming that was in the code to begin with, just for aesthetic reasons, right?
Aesthetic, probably functionality too, just to sort of keep the buildings facing the direction of traffic. But
okay.
But I do think it is discretionary.
Okay, that's all I had. I'm fine with it.
Commissioner Ruiz, did you have something you wanted to?
No, I'm good. Thank you.
Okay. Anyone else have anything they want to discuss? I personally saw no issues with this, and I think it's nice to see this property getting redeveloped. There's nothing that they're doing that sort of gives me pause. So, does somebody want to make a motion?
Sure, I'll make a motion. So after a review of the site plan dated March 10th, 2020 with supplemental documentation, the staff file review and analysis for 07 SUP 0420, the Planning Commission finds that the request meets the intent and requirements of the Land Development Code, sections 54.1403 and 54.1402, and hereby approve 07 SUP 0420 with the following conditions: that the amended plan is submitted to meet all of staff comments. That comment that covers the catch basins and everything, Andrea? Yes.
I'll second.
Yeah, Commissioner Dunn seconds. Okay, unless anybody wants more discussion, I'm going to do a roll call vote. Okay, let's start with Commissioner Brooks,
Yay.
Commissioner Larson,
Yes.
Commissioner Dunn,
Yes.
Commissioner Andres,
Yes.
Commissioner Ruiz,
Yes.
Commissioner Middlefelt,
Yes.
Commissioner Primo,
Yes.
and I vote yes. Motion carries. Motion carries.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, we're through our public hearings. Citizens wishing to address the commission on agenda items. Tell me there's no one. There's no one. Old business. It does not appear that we have any. New business. Okay, item A06 SPR 04 2020, portion of 2025 US Highway 41 new building. So, Andrea.
The proposed site plan is for the construction of a 2-story office building with a drive-through, an accessory structure, parking lot, grading, and site improvements. And this is for a pending land division that will be done in 2021. So that's why we don't have any new address or a new parcel number for you. Attached were your staff file review and analysis, which included the zoning district regulations, parking requirements, and the site plan review standards. And then the attachments had their site plan review application, with attachments showing about the right of way with MDOT, lighting standards, staff comments, the applicant's responses to those comments, and then the city's responses to those, to the applicant's responses. The area map. The portion of the parcel for that land division is outlined in blue. The same with the block map. Photos of the site. And the site plan. And that was it.
Okay. Do we have the applicant available?
Yeah. Oh, oopsie. Okay, I think they're both in.
They're on mute as well.
Hi, Mr. Nagel.
Hi.
And who else do we have? We have Mr. Nagel and we have somebody on the phone.
Yes, this is Kevin Anker with UP Engineers and Architects. I'm the civil site designer for the project.
Okay, Kevin. So Mr. Nagel or Kevin, if either one of you would like to speak in regards to your project, please just state your name and address for the record.
Sure. Peter Nagel, address W228 N745 West Mound Drive, Waukesha, Wisconsin.
And this is Kevin Ankara, 1300 High Street, Marquette, Michigan.
Okay, if you'd like to speak on behalf of your application, go ahead.
Sure. We've submitted all of the required materials that have been asked for by Andrea and the municipality, and to this point have responded to all staff comments and questions other than the one that David sent minutes for the meeting, which I'm sure we'll talk about. Everything that's required of the site plan is met or exceeded, or has been stated as such in responses to staff comments that it will be addressed at time of final review.
Thank you. Do we have any questions for our applicants? I just have one question, which is, I guess I was just curious about the siting as it relates to the existing Dollar Tree. Is that building going to remain, or the portion that has the Dollar Tree in it?
Our client is actually the bank. We're kind of working sidebar a little bit with the developer because it's all intertwined, and they are also the same ownership, so it's a little hairy. My point of that is I don't want to speak on behalf of the developer who's not here, but my understanding is that the Dollar Tree has a few years remaining on their lease. So that's why that portion of the building was not torn down with the rest of the mall. But my understanding is eventually when that lease is expired, that will be torn down. It's just there currently until their lease is expired.
Okay, I just found it quite strange, the siting as relates to that existing structure.
Right.
I thought I heard somebody. Anybody else? Oh, sorry, Dave.
Yeah, one of the things that, I mentioned in email to the Planning Commission prior to the meeting is to keep your comments relevant. But one thing I could explain a little bit to help you understand that site was a huge single parcel, and that parcel is being subdivided into smaller parcels for redevelopment. And this is the first part of that project to redevelop the site. So what's there now is going to be a vastly different landscape once those parcels are redeveloped, and it's, the layout of the property is going to change dramatically with the reparcelization. So, I think it's, going to be public knowledge soon. So I hope I'm not, speaking out of turn with the developer's concerns in mind, but this isn't just going to, be a static development here with one building out in the middle of a parking lot for, some indefinite period. I think there's probably going to be some redevelopment there besides this in sometime in the near future.
Okay. Commissioner Ruiz?
Do we have any, I guess if we have no more questions, I was going to make a motion to suspend. Or do we already do that?
Well, okay, sorry. I just had a question for the applicant, but let me just confirm that we have no correspondence. We don't. Is there anybody waiting in the wings for public testimony? Okay, we do not. So now would be the time if you want to suspend to make a motion to suspend.
I'd make a motion to suspend.
Okay. Commissioner Larson seconds. All in favor of suspending the rules for discussion? Say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Commissioner Ruiz, do you want to start?
And maybe Dave can help answer this, but I guess it's very, Joy, I think you make a good point. It's hard to do this piecemeal when there's obviously a bigger project afloat there. I'd like to be able to see. It's a great. I have nothing against this project. I think this project is great. It's it's good to put something there. Just I'd like to see what the division looks like, or to see what the grander idea is. And maybe they can't do that, but I feel like there's something else going on here that it's hard to figure out how it's going to interlay.
Yeah, all I'll say about that is you're going to kind of have to suspend your desire to see all that right now, because there really isn't any other development proposal in the pipeline. It's just a subdivision of the property. As you might imagine, even our master plan suggests that kind of thing with the redevelopment of a large parcel, that you consider, reparcelizing it into smaller parcels, which provides for greater diversity over time, and it's generally a good thing. And so this is just the first step, and I don't think there is any definitive master plan, or there's definitely no other development that we're aware of that's planned for any of that property right now. So you kind of have to have faith, I guess I'd say.
That's very good to know, Dave. I appreciate that. That helps.
Commissioner Dunn.
Just a quick question for staff. I'm wondering if engineering is satisfied with the utility lines and how that's going to be put in place. It seemed like the conversation wasn't over regarding where the utility lines were and whether the city was going to take over ownership or not. I don't have an opinion on it. I'm just wondering if engineering's happy with things where it's at.
I'll take that and say that there's a comment in the responses from the applicant about potential relocation of the water main to the northwest corner of the property, over where the Pizza Hut building was, in that area. And our city engineer really is very favorable to that idea, that they would move the line down, and in the future. So that has the potential to be a really, I think, a good thing. From what his analysis of it is, that would be very favorable to the redevelopment of the site in the future, and I think for some other reasons. But as regarding, and that would be in the right of way. So that's a project. If the developer wanted to take it from the city and bring it into their property and accept it, I think that's a great thing. But the engineer likes that. The memo I sent out from Scott Kimbenzi addresses the bigger issue of the developer, taking responsibility for all the utilities on the site until there is can be a plan drawn up for, and I think they like to see that for the whole site, where these all these kind of utility, the sanitary, the water main, and anything else, and the easements are all worked out into a plan that addresses all the parcels.
And so, Dave, is that ideally, that underlying portion, something that could be crafted into a condition for approval?
Yeah, that would really be a good condition. And you should probably ask the developer some questions about that, if they're favorable to that. But that's the city's position right now. That's really what they want to see happen.
Commissioner Larson.
Yeah, that memo that Dave sent out just prior to the meeting from Scott Kimbenzi, I guess that was my main concern. Again, I think redeveloping these parcels is great. However, having the superintendent of public works say that he doesn't know that the responses resolve the concerns, from Keith's or his comments, it gives me at least a little bit of pause. And then he also goes on to say that he's uncomfortable with the situation. He's willing to move forward with, the mutual understanding that all utilities on the parent parcel are property of the developer and are responsible for maintaining until such time they can present that complete plan. I guess if he's suggesting that's a way forward, I'd be willing to craft that into something, and just I guess ask the developer what their Dave. I assume they have seen this. They've seen this response from Scott.
Yes.
And then I guess their take on that portion, on whether or not they are moving forward under that understanding that everything is they're responsible for maintaining everything of the parent parcel at such time they can present a complete plan. Is that something that they are willing to do? And if we can ask them that, that'd be great.
Yeah.
Mr. Nagel or Kevin, do you want to respond?
Kevin.
This is Kevin. Can you hear me? Maybe I can speak more on the utilities and what's going on with the engineering. If everyone can hear me okay.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Sorry, I had some difficulty mixing the phone call with the YouTube, but anyways, there's a lot of moving pieces here. We also have MDOT to do with, as it's their right away, and they also have a future project coming through, so we have also been coordinating with them. But on top of that, with the city and the existing utility layout, the adjacent parcels really aren't going to be that developable without these utility movements to go along with what the city actually wants to do in the future. So it's really best case for everyone to be cognizant of the future development of the overall property, and that's really what we've been striving to address with our comments.
And so what Mr. Larson stated, is that acceptable? Because I think what we'll probably do is have the motion include a condition, which was what Mr. Larson stated just previously.
Which is exactly what Scott Compenzi of Public Works had stated, that that the developer is willing to keep the responsibility of the maintenance and until such time as a complete plan can be developed.
Kevin?
Maybe Peter can speak on this more, but as of now, we are considering them private utilities that are serving this parcel. When the other parcels are developed, utilities will be transferred to the proper easements, and we'll move forward with that plan. But as of right now, today, we plan to utilize the private utilities that access the site.
Yeah,
Commissioner Larson.
that's correct. We have.
Sorry, I can't hear you, Peter.
That's correct. What Kevin is saying. We've been having correspondence. His name is Dennis Severinson. He's the developer. Kevin and I have had a couple of calls with him, and what he's stating about moving the line is the intent. But we're focused on the bank parcel project. The concept is to design the entire system, but only to build and construct what's needed for the bank parcel. And then if and when the future parcels become developed, it would become the ownership of those parcels.
It's hard to hear.
But
Can you speak up, Mr. Nagel?
Sorry. What Kevin is saying is correct. That's the plan. Where we would only be constructing what's relevant to the parcel, the bank parcel itself, but to design the entire system with the line moving.
Commissioner Larson, you're on mute.
So just to follow up there, to my ear anyway, that sounds like that is along the lines of what Scott is saying, that if those utilities are to remain private right now, that would be under the maintenance of the developer during that time. And so if we incorporated that into a motion, it sounds like that would be amenable to you guys.
And I think just the last sentence of this is really important, that you're clear on. It says if the mains are relocated, all of the necessary work will be at the developer's expense, so that if sort of when the larger planning is done and changes need to be made, that's something that the developer takes responsibility for.
I guess I just want to point out, this is Kevin, one thing that with the future construction, MDOT has a project in the works through that right away. And also, I believe the city is planning to put in a new water main along that line. So I think it might come down to a timeline matter as to what goes in first. Does the parcel get developed first? Because the adjacent parcel, the water main's running right down the middle of it. So it's not going to get developed with that water main in there. But that's going to be eventually a different owner. So at this time, I personally can't speak on who is going to eventually pay for it. I don't know if Peter has any additional input there, but it may come down to...
We can't hear you, Mr. Nagel.
I agree with what Kevin's saying. I'm not comfortable speaking on behalf of the remainder of the development. We can only state our plans and that we'd be constructing what's applicable to the bank. But we're having ongoing discussions with Dennis, and I'm sure that he'd be amenable to whatever is being discussed here. But he'd be the person to have further discussions with David and you about the entire plan for the entire development.
I guess go ahead,
I'm
Kevin.
sorry. I guess another comment would be that we are putting in the necessary utilities now to coincide with that future development. So if we're doing this, it'll be all for naught if in the future they don't do it. But as in terms of the bank property, we are planning to move forward with the reroute of utilities.
I think the bigger picture here is, I mean, none of us, we don't know what the bigger picture is. So it's not really possible for us to analysis further than saying, we have this information that our superintendent of public works won't be comfortable. And so I do think it's important in terms of passing this, which I would be in favor of doing, that we have this text included. And so I just want to make clear that you understand that is something that is quite possibly could be included in our motion. Tony, Commissioner Ruiz.
I don't have it, but the language, but I would encourage Mike to make a motion because it seems, Mr. Larson, because it seems to me he has the language from the email based on the discussion. So I'd leave it at that.
Commissioner Andres?
I would say that I wouldn't feel comfortable voting for this if the language wasn't in there. So
I agree.
That's just my opinion.
Dave, Mr. Census?
Yeah, I would just say, I think what Mr. Nancaro said about the timing of different things happening could affect, who's going to actually pay for the water main if it has to be moved and that kind of thing. So that last sentence in Scott's memo, if the mains are relocated, all necessary work will be at the developer's expense. I don't really know if that's something that, it would be as a condition of approval, that, that may change somewhat just out of practicality. So I think putting it in there is fine, but I don't know that it's actually going to be enforceable over time. And but
if the mains are recoded, all of the necessary work may be at the developer's expense. Just to
yeah, that's probably a better way to put it. But I wanted to explain that part of the reason for all this is because there's some confusion on this site over, what the utilities, who owns some of the utilities, and that's kind of because there were some easements there, and there was a bit of a hodgepodge, I think, of utilities and actual documentation of who owned the various utilities. So I think that's why all this came about with, and I think this is a good resolution to the issue.
Okay.
Joy, can I ask a question?
Yes, wait, Commissioner Primo.
I'm not sure, but I believe there's a creek that runs right through that property, and I think, if I remember right, that's the headwaters of the Whetstone Brook. That's all that drainage that's through that parking lot is a creek.
It does
Or a
run
brook.
through there. Yeah.
So, what does the DEQ car, not DEQ anymore, Eagle come in on that? Because a lot of the piping is undersized because of the huge development that took place after the mall was built. I don't know. Just a question. But that is something that has to be looked at, I think.
Well, when there's a development for that portion of the property that would touch that underground stream, I'm sure that those concerns would have to be addressed by the developer.
I believe this property or this section is. I'm not sure.
This is Kevin Anker again. I can address this. Currently, the existing parking lot all drains to the MDOT right away and their storm sewer. Well, I guess the city's storm sewer and their MDOT right away. And then the existing roof drains all drain off to the east of the property. So there's not actually underground infiltration into the underground brook.
So all those catch basins in the parking lot drain to the city storm sewers or MDOTs? Because that property, I mean, is the last piece in the city of Marquette.
Currently, our site plan in the existing condition all drains to the MDOT storm sewer or in the MDOT right away.
Which I believe is part of the creek. Or brook. Anyway, just a question.
Okay. I mean, I didn't see any further issues from engineering regarding stormwater, so, but thank you for bringing that up, Commissioner Primo. Commissioner Middlefeld, did you have something?
No.
Did I imagine that? Sorry. Okay, any further questions, comments on this? Does somebody want to make a motion?
I can go ahead and do that again, just because I have language here in front of me for memo and whatnot. After review of the site plan and the supplemental documentation dated 3/9/20 and received 3/24/20, and the staff file review and analysis for 06 SPR 0420, the Planning Commission finds substantial compliance with the City of Marquette Land Development Code and hereby approves the site plan with the following conditions. That amended plan is submitted to meet all staff comments and responses, including that that all utilities on the parent parcel are the property of the understanding that all utilities on the parent parcel of the property are the parent, sorry, including the understanding that all utilities on the parent parcel are the property of the developer and they are responsible for maintaining them until such a time as they can present a completed plan. And if the water mains are relocated, all of the necessary work may be at the developer's expense.
Beautiful.
I apologize for that.
Second.
Second.
I don't know who said that first. Anyway, was it Commissioner Ruiz?
I wasn't first. It was the other person.
Who was that? Was it Andres? Commissioner Andres?
Yes.
Second.
Second.
Okay, any further discussion or do we want to just go ahead and vote? We ready? We do it? Okay, we'll do a roll call. Commissioner Brooks.
Yes.
Commissioner Middlefeld.
Yes.
Commissioner Larson.
Yes.
Commissioner Andres,
Yes.
Commissioner Ruiz,
Yes.
Commissioner Dunn,
Yes.
Commissioner Primo,
Yes.
and I vote yes. The motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, moving on to our hopefully final piece, new business item B, 14-SPR-07-2019, extension request to complete site plan.
Did you just want to bring me in, or I'm sorry, did you just want me to bring in the applicant? Because basically, it's not going to take me long to go through my stuff.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, for this case, you received attached correspondence from Jeff Kratzen, HRS Founders Landing, and he's requesting an extension to the previously approved site plan for the construction of 26 townhomes, parking lot grading, site improvements, and detached accessory structure located at 800 South Lakeshore Boulevard, which has that pending address of 700 Lakeshore Boulevard. The Planning Commission reviewed this on July 16, 2019, and attached were his correspondence, the Planning Commission minutes, and the recommended action is that the Planning Commission should either approve or deny the request for an extension for this case with the expiration date to be 07/16/21.
Okay, I see we have Mr. Katzen with us. You want to speak on behalf, or was that clear? Hi, Mr. Katzen, can you hear me? Mr. Katzen? Do you have your audio on? Hello?
Hey, Jeff, you gotta select the microphone in the bottom corner.
Your audio is not on, Mr. Katzen.
While we're waiting for that, can I ask a question of staff?
Sure.
If a extension is granted, is there a limit to the number of extensions? Is it limited to one extension, or is it
2? So the max you're allowed to give is a year, and then they'd have to come back again 45 days before the expiration, and then you could give another year.
Thank you.
Mr. Katzen, did you get your audio working?
Not working yet. I'm messaging him. Messaging.
I can so for his correspondence, the reason for it was this COVID-19 outbreak.
Right.
Why they're asking for an extension, because they would have had to get started by July 16th, and it's not a guarantee right now that they would.
Yeah, I guess my thought is, does he really need to speak? Or, I mean, this feels pretty straightforward to me. Do we want to just?
Do you want me to call him?
No.
See if I can get it working?
I just want to vote. I can't, it seems like a no-brainer to me, unless somebody, if there's conflict and we think we need to bring him in, we can reach out to him, but does anybody have any objection to this?
Connecting to audio now.
Can you hear me now?
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Okay, there you
Hi,
go.
sorry about that.
Hi.
Hi.
So we're just discussing your case. If there's anything you want to say on your behalf, I mean, your letter is pretty straightforward, so now would be.
Yeah, we're just working through some things. We've bid out our construction. We're working on finalizing some environmental, and just with all the COVID stuff, it just put us behind here a little bit. So
okay,
we have our extension on our purchase agreement is going to be voted on at the next city commission meeting, and that should be for 90 days, take us through almost to the end of July, and then we plan on starting after that. So we just want to get all our ducks in order and have the site plan extended.
okay. Thank you, Mr. Katzen.
Thanks.
Does anybody have any comments, or does anybody want to make a motion? You're on mute.
I'll make a motion.
There we go.
Just the Planning Commission should approve the request for an extension for the case 14-SPR-07-19. Expiration date to be 07-16-21.
Second.
Second from Commissioner Larson. Does anybody want to have discussion or can we go ahead with a vote? Okay, let's do it. I'm going to do a roll call. Okay. Commissioner Brooks,
Yes.
Commissioner Andres,
Yes.
Commissioner Middlefelt,
Yes.
Commissioner Larson,
Yes.
Commissioner Ruiz,
Yes.
Commissioner Dunn,
Yes.
Commissioner Primo,
Yes.
and I vote yes, so the motion passes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. While you're writing that, I'm just gonna blaze through this. Citizens wishing to address the commission on non-agenda items. There's no one, right?
There's no one.
Okay. Correspondence, reports, minutes of other boards and committees. Do we have to do that? No, we're good? Yes. Work sessions, we don't have any. Commission and staff comments. If you want to make a comment, why don't you raise your hand? No one, no one? Okay. Then I adjourn this meeting. And well done, everybody.
Thank you.
And please feel free to let me know if we end up having to do this again, if there's any improvements I can make. I've never done a meeting quite this large, so.
I apologize for any technical difficulties we experienced.
Oh, you guys did great. Nice
Good
job.
job, everyone.
Good job.
Yeah, we're good.
Thanks,
If
everybody.
anything
Thanks,
it was on me.
Dave.
See you guys later.
Good night.
Hey.
Bye.